Yeah. Is there anyone else outside here? Are we good? Okay, let's go. All right. Good evening, everyone. This is the regular board meeting, April 21st, 2015. And I'll report, well, first it's a roll call.
Director Ianson?
Here.
Director Solano?
Here.
Director Corrali? Director Carpenter?
Here.
Director Bernstein?
Present.
Quorum.
Okay. Do the I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Reportable actions from closed session. There are none. Public comment number 2. Do we have any public comment? I don't have any cards or anything. Okay. Let's have the Menlo Park firefighters benevolent association.
We got one public comment.
Oh,
Yes, I have a comment. Dear Board of Directors of the Menlo Park Fire Protection District, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is David Ibarra, and I'm the coordinator of the Boots for the Cinco de Mayo Festival. I'm here to request approval of an event fee waiver for Comité Latino. This fee waiver is in accordance with your fee waiver policy. Thanks for your time, and feel free to ask any follow-up questions.
thank you.
Okay.
This item is on our agenda, is
It is on our agenda. Okay, so now we'll go to our Menlo Park Firefighters Benevolent Activities Report. Have anyone from the association? Okay.
whipping right along.
Whipping right along to presentations. So, update on the cadet program?
Yes. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I know I was supposed to be on the docket last month. We just had a baby boy.
Congratulations.
So got to move it to this month. Appreciate that. My name is Joe Wallace. I've been with the fire department now for 8 years. 6 months before that, I was a cadet with Road City, San Mateo County, and attended the San Mateo CSM Academy, Pre-Service Academy. Working with under Captain Martin and firefighter Pat McGlennon, Brian Berger, and Anthony Ramirez are also cadet instructors. This year's cadets I'd like to introduce, starting with Monday cadets down here.
Abraham Fraley, Pre-Service Academy at City College of San Francisco.
Jay Strickland, Monterey Peninsula College.
Jeff Grant, Monterey Peninsula College.
Jonathan Garcia, CSM.
Chris Young, College of San Mateo.
Christian Ryan, College of San Mateo.
Stephen Leonard, Monterey Peninsula College.
Garrett DeWitt, Monterey Peninsula College.
Jose Orozco, Monterey Peninsula College.
Jason Sobolewski, Monterey Peninsula College.
Tino Thompson, College of San Mateo.
And our 12th cadet, Andy Hayes, is not going to be able to make it tonight. He is finishing up his medic program today. Just a brief synopsis of the program. Since 1987, we've been having the cadet program. Captain Phil Van Orden put it together. He's kind of the godfather in San Mateo County for the cadet programs. He is still currently involved in San Mateo CSM as far as helping coordinate with putting the programs together. How the program works, a joint effort, co-op work experience program through the Community College of San Mateo, Menlo Park Fire Protection District, and the Cal State Fire Marshals. Minimum qualification for a cadet to apply to the program is to be 18 years old, clean DMV record, pre-service academy, for example, CSM Academy, EMT license. They also go through an interview process. Cadets function as firefighters with our day-to-day operations. 1 day a week pre-assigned. For instance, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. Regular training on duty. They work a regular shift experience. They have regular shift experience. Mandatory monthly training as a group. We do that monthly. Sometimes on Saturdays, sometimes during the week. We give them interviews and critiques on their interviews. to get ready for future job interview processes. Physical ability tests, hands-on emergency ops and fire prevention, public ed, and mechanical experience. We have the cadets fill out task book evaluations to have a record of that they are getting the sign-offs for the state fire curriculum. Benefits to the district: it's the best job interview process we can give them for our district. It saves money for pre-screening future employees prior to the district's job announcement and hiring process. Providing job experience in the emergency field, allowing an easy transition as new recruits for the district as well as any other agencies. Program has very little cost to district, aids to the district in daily functions, allowing district to run efficiently. Program gives back to the community, i.e. by having our cadets involved with benevolent acts. They even participate in county academy functions and any other things that may come up that we've asked them to be volunteers for. They also, some cadets in the past have transitioned from our Explorer program, and it also benefits our district by having our firefighters training the cadets, keeps their skills up as well. Benefits to the cadets: it's their chance to shine. Work experience they get acting as a firefighter, working as a firefighter, learning how to become a firefighter. They learn how to work with our community, training and experience to attain their Firefighter 1 cert, to be evaluated also by us, to network with other firefighters in the county. Benefits to the community job experience, career recruitment for diversity that reflects the community. Cadets give back doing their volunteer community benevolent acts. Transition from Explorer program to the cadet program, as we mentioned. The future of our program, we're committed as instructors, Captain Martin and the rest of us are committed to excellence. 2011, we started a cadet task book for sign-offs for accountability, so we can monitor where they're at for their Firefighter 1 sign-off through the state. We believe that the state will soon move to a task book completion for Firefighter 1 sign-off, so we're kind of ahead of the curve on that. More job-specific fire and EMS operational skills training is what we're trying to provide these gentlemen. Monthly and daily drills set up for Firefighter 1 manipulative, so we just continue to keep them on course for their Firefighter 1 sign-offs. Currently working with Captain Fergoni, who is our fitness program coordinator, to have the cadets meet the minimum qualifications for fitness. And we're looking in the future for prevention cadet positions that I was just talking to Chief about. Future needs. What we see for future needs is we've had promotional step raises from instructors, has impacted our budget. Interview funds for our panel, so we have funds to have a better interview process. Training funds for third instructor for some drills for our span of control for safety. Promotional funds, so if we want to send an instructor to go talk to the CSM or to any other colleges to promote, or in the community to promote more diversity for our program, we can send some guys out to do that. And other future needs is equipment and staples, i.e. we invested in a GoPro camera to video while we're doing training, and we're going to be putting something together this year. The group's going to put a presentation together for next year's program, and we just built an event prop for training last year that works really good. We'll be doing it again this year with the cadets, learning how to cut holes for ventilation. In closing, our cadet instructors take great pride in the program. We strive for excellence. Our goal is to make the cadet program world-class. Without the board and the district support, we couldn't do that, and we thank you. Thank you, Chief, as well, for the support and the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Don't leave yet, Joe.
Don't leave Joe, we're not letting you get away.
Okay.
What is their role when they're on duty and the unit responds to an emergency? Are they observers, are they participants, or?
So when they first come on, depending on how the captain sees where they fit in, knowing their skills, we get adjusted to where they're at. They all come in with EMT 1 or EMT cards. So they're able to work as an EMT. So the more comfortable a captain or the crew gets with an EMT, or excuse me, with a cadet, then they can start allowing them to do more specific job skills. They are not allowed to go into any fire.
I mean, be the husband.
Right, exactly. So at that point, they would stay out, they would see the chief on scene and then be appointed elsewhere at that point.
The other question, you spoke about the outreach and diversity, and I would just like to compliment you in terms of this incredible array of young men. And the other side of that question is, what about young women?
I'm sorry?
What about young women?
You know, we haven't had any applicants of late, so I can't really speak of, we accept everyone.
Yeah, the reason I raised that question is years ago when I first joined the board, I was quite concerned about the gender and the ethnic makeup of the department. It was literally an all-white male department. And I soon realized that there was absolutely no racism, no discrimination or anything. It was just the way that the system worked in terms of, going and getting your associate degree, coming through high school, having upper body strength, et cetera, et cetera. And so I always worry when I see a filter process like what you set up here. The good news is, because of this process, we get better and better recruits when we're hiring. The bad news is we have to make sure that that filtering process doesn't inappropriately exclude anybody.
Right. It doesn't. I believe our program and our process allows anyone who sees the announcement to apply for the position. We've had in the past cadets before my time that were female. It's just all about the timing of when you're at the program at CSM, for instance. A lot of the participants at those programs, they're going to the first job announcement that they see posted. And for instance, San Mateo program, they take 30 cadets. They do their posting before ours. So we lose 30 right off the bat from them. So what we're trying to do this year is we're going to get out earlier, get our posting, although our interview process is later, but hopefully through word of mouth that our program, what we're trying to strive for to be so good that we're going to be getting people to hold off on theirs and come to ours, which will give us more applicants to take on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks. Virginia, you have any questions?
No, thanks for the information.
Thank you.
Chuck?
Thank you, Bob.
So what, we'll wait for that to finish up.
Turn the speaker off. Yeah, you won't hear that, just tell them.
All right, good. So one thing that's on the agenda tonight is the board is, if they approve the entry-level hiring announcement with some changes, then the district will hire up to 6 by the end of the year, and potentially up to 12, but it really depends on retirements and so forth. And out of the 6, 4 will be paramedic and 2 will be regular EMT firefighters. So you guys should know that's coming. We want to make sure we keep you in the loop as well.
That would be great. Qualifications will allow our cadets to,
That's correct.
that's beautiful. Great news.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thanks for bringing me.
Thank you, Chief.
Did anyone from the association? No? There's no one out there that's lingering? Okay. Next, we have the unmanned aircraft system flight demonstration. Chief? Go ahead.
I'm sure follow through on the program.
Civilian chief?
Civilian
PG&E
fire industry.
coordinator?
Chief retired?
Just following through on the program we started several months back and developed a UAV program. We've been going through the process with the Federal Aviation for a number of months now, and so far we're the farthest ahead in the state as far as the municipality and the fire service to get the certificate of authorization. We've been following, we're going down a 2-step process, going through the COA process, and also entering into the new requirements for the FAA. So, long story short, we put together a quick video to show you photographs of our actual UAV out there during a training session, and what it can do for us, and what it's done out in the scenes, and then if you choose so, we can actually have a demo outside for you of the UAV.
Trying to make sure we fit everything on here for you guys.
Yeah, go ahead. I just,
rockets or anything, right?
I can't sit that close. That's great. I was doing both. I was trying to do a job.
Brandon
Make myself
Vaccaro,
useful.
he's flown ours. I've had the opportunity to fly ours as well. And Brandon is, at this point, was our designated instructor to help train us, also part of our COA through the FAA, and having him be able to show up and run our UAV under the Menlo Park Fire's authority.
Okay, here we go. There we go. Sorry about that.
That's actually our UAV. He's flying up above us. I'm flying out while he's flying over the top of me. That's our training up at SLAC, this year's Wildland training. This is again this year's Wildland training up at SLAC. This just last about a month and a half ago.
Just keep your engine.
Being able to show vehicle accident, Highway 101 and congestion. This is actually our airboat out on the bay doing some training with the UAV going alongside it. Post-incident critiques and also after a fire. Pre-planning with Facebook. Public relations events. Putting in for our request. Our request is for us to utilize it during emergency operations, disasters, pre-fire plans, training, and public address. Yes, sir.
First, I just want to say one of the most exciting things about this, and I think anybody who's been in the business really appreciates this is a leap forward for situational awareness. People in the past have always had to deal with these issues on the ground and try to make sense out of things in 3 dimensions. And this really gives our people an incredible leap forward in terms of sizing up a situation, doing it with minimal risk to people. The question I have is, has anybody thought about linking the drone to beacons on individual firefighters, so that if somebody hits the button, says, hey, I'm in trouble, that drone can immediately lock onto their location?
It has
Because
to
the
be,
pieces are all there.
it has to be programmed into the flight path to do that. And there's a lot of safeties built in. I don't think it's that complex yet it can do that. We did utilize this, and Brendan did come out to a fire actually in Atherton while the fire was just coming down. He flew over the top of it. I was able to see from my command post the folks on the roof doing the ventilation, the back side of the house, which I couldn't see, into a 360 right from the back of the command car. Able to link it to that and also link it to a command center. It can become live footage where you can actually access, log in, and see what's seen out on the scenes.
I'm remembering years ago, Frank, you probably, maybe the only, you and maybe Harold, the only two people remember when we were working with SRI and they had that project over at the Naval Hospital where they had people moving throughout the hospital and you could look on the screen and see where everybody was. And that just sort of disappeared off the screen.
Urban Warrior.
Urban Warrior, yeah. But if we could add that capability to this, so you not only had the overview, but you also had position information on each of the firefighters involved. Think about it.
That's
that'd be
actually
cool.
available right now to us, available through our SCBA system too. They have
Yes.
those radio system, you can do that. The problem is you have to pre-plan all those buildings. It'll give you a location estimate, but you have to have that building pre-planned to put it in there, see them going down the halls, which is, it's a future.
It's
It's all
coming.
future.
Yeah.
Still a lot more hoops though to jump through.
It is,
Well,
and
this is
again,
impressive.
again, the hoops to jump through this thing, it's so restricted because we're a public agency. Myself, as a private entity, I can take it out and fly with very little restrictions. But us, you as Menlo Park Fire cannot do that. The restrictions are tremendous, and hoops you have to jump through to do this. Brandon, he's been part of the fire service and support of fire service for a number of years through various programs. He's come out and he's actually the one who's brought all this to the forefront. He did the video and here the editing, all this just as part of the fire service and wanting to see this program move forward. Keeping him involved in the program as a trainer and being an asset to the district is just a benefit to everybody here. I'll introduce Brandon to you. He also does photography for us, done a number of photography sessions and live fires. He did the photos of all the Woodside Road fires, a lot of the post-critique incidents, and his UAV is a step above the one we have. It's incredible. Any
Thank you.
questions for Brandon?
One thing, directors, Brandon and I met last week, and the concerns that we have for deployment, Willow Road, and traffic issues. We're actually talking about how we could put together a short video using dash cam and other cameras and the UAV to show some of our plight as it applies to getting around town and some of the traffic control devices and how difficult it is for us to maneuver through some of those. Again, use kind of this.
Well, that
visual
short clip of
information.
one-on-one was a great perspective. It
Exactly.
showed you.
So we're working on that. More to come.
It definitely has quite the advantage in the air. What you don't realize is even going 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, just below 100 feet, what you can see and how far you can see from one vantage point. Where, even if you have to put a truck up, it's going to take time. You can launch this device in less than a minute.
And how restricted are we going to be nighttime operations?
There's two different ways you can apply for the UAV. If we apply through our COA process, we can fly at night and go through the process. That's why we're doing the dual process. The other process you apply through only allows you to do daytime flights, so we're going to have both simultaneously. And we also met with the company that builds these, DJI, and they're working on a camera that has thermal imaging that goes right in and attaches. So we'll have thermal imaging as a process to go up. Where it comes into effect for us is that search, out in the wilderness, out in areas searching for victims, searching for children, or even hot spots flying over fire. It'll be able to show us from the top of the roof the area incident. It's just incredible, the different options we've done, and they're working directly with Menlo Park Fire, because again, we've been the forefront of this since the very beginning for California, and pretty much there's only 3 in the nation actually got as far as we have so far
Who are the other ones?
out of the state. Actually, I think Southern California, the sheriff's office is going in the same process there, but there's a couple on the east coast of Michigan and Montgomery County, Maryland.
And on the rule that just was put out for review, we've been working with Myers-Nabe and actually giving comment. And that needs to be in by Friday, but I just looked at the draft today. And last time we checked, I think we were there's no other public agencies that have commented and so forth. So far, basically it's all civilian users that are commenting on this. So it seems almost amazing that no governmental agencies have weighed in. But I'm not sure if law enforcement doesn't want to weigh in, or they're gonna wait till the last minute, or what. But, commenting on that rule is also important.
Several other agencies have contacted us. They want to get what we have, but they want the cookbook of how we got to where we were on the whole process. And working with Myers-Navi from the very, very onset of this whole thing, guiding us through all the laws and all the requirements and the regulations, got us to where we are much faster than anybody else could, having a legal group behind us, kind of ushering us through the process and identifying the shortcomings.
Well, one of the things I would encourage you to raise in your interactions with the FAA is that my sense is that it might be a win-win proposition for them to designate Menlo Fire as a lead agency. And so that they can say, okay, if you want to do something in the fire area, work with Menlo, because they basically got it, and we could do it not only as a way of helping other agencies, but also as a cost recovery system. Setting up training programs, that kind of thing. And I think a lot of the credit goes to you, Frank, because you're the guy that's been pushing this. So thank you so much for doing it.
No problem. The lead person in Washington DC for the FAA in this whole program, to my surprise, as a large organization, it's been extremely helpful, very informative, and very responsive to any of my requests, and walking through the entire process. I thought that'd be a challenge, and actually it was a plus.
Well, if you would be so kind as to introduce me, I would love to just drop in and see him next time. I'm in Washington all the time. I'd like to just thank him on behalf of the district.
I'll forward you the email contact using. Chief Long here is now shepherding the program. So he has all the information on it, all the documentation is all in a folder, so any of that you choose to share with it, go through the process, you all the contacts, and trust me, we've been across the country in several states in contacts with this whole process, just garnishing the information and getting us where we are.
So on the regs from Chris, who's the attorney working with Senator Myers-Navi, he says he's seen 3,000 comments so far, mostly from individuals or made anonymously. In my brief review of the comments, I saw a few from private companies, but none from public agencies. So we'll be sure to comment.
There's a huge privacy issue involving not only drones, but license plate readers, different rules that are set up by the state of California. In fact, one of our own communities that we serve, Menlo Park, has instituted their own privacy guidelines relative to storage and retention. So it's, as the chief said, it's a hot issue, but to the chief's credit, first thing when Frank, you came up with the idea and the chief vented it through the press, it was probably the best thing that the chief did, because we got a lot of solid community feedback. And that was important, because a lot of other public agencies had done the same thing, but they didn't vent it through that process. So to your credit, chief, I think starting from the beginning, just letting the public know what we were going to do was that open transparency thing that we always talk about.
Part of the COA process, part of our initial white paper on it, was our storage and how we can actually obtain the information and follow the FAA requirements and the Privacy Act requirements, along with our own district requirements, and mesh them all together. It was all in the proposal you received 3 months ago, or so. It was inside there. Any questions for Brandon? Do you want to see it actually fly, or do you want to move on with the meeting? It's up to you.
Sure.
Well, I saw it during your retirement function. Rex, you guys see the demo outside? I'm sure you've seen it. Chuck?
I saw it during the retirement.
Good to know.
Virginia can't say it.
Go to YouTube.
Virginia.
I'm here, I can't see it, but I heard it.
Okay. Yeah, but you were out there at Frank's retirement, though.
I saw it in
Yeah.
action. I saw the group picture on Frank's Facebook page.
So there you go. Okay, thank you, Virginia. And Frank, thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
There you go.
Next, we'll have the Menlo Park Firefighters Benevolent Association report. Mr. President?
I'll keep this one brief. Sorry for not getting here right at the start. Benevolent Acts update is the Firefighters Association has donated $2,500 in manpower towards the culmination of the rebuilding together, and that'll all come together on the 25th with a community barbecue and display of the house upgrades that we did along with the Kiwanis Club. And then the other piece of that is the Dream House raffle, and that is the child's playhouse that gets auctioned off. That's in the process of being built, and that'll be displayed at Stanford Shopping Center on May 2nd. And it's on view for several weeks until they have an auction. And so next month we'll let you know how both of those turned out.
Thank you for what you did.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Now we're under reports and requests. Virginia, do you have a president's report?
I do. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so just a few things. I met with, along with Director Ianson and the chief, we met with the mayor of Menlo Park and the fire district liaison, Peter Otaki, and the city manager. Second meeting that we had, and it was just to, I'm sure that Harold can talk about this in his chief's report, but it was just to really talk about some issues that, well, I mean, the collaboration, but one issue that I brought up along with the mayor is basically how do we, for lack of a better term, codify this process that would include the fire district when it comes to development, in the process where the fire district can be heard and the concerns that we have regarding emergency response and all that. So that really didn't get, it's gotten their attention and it's out there and we're working on that. And I'm sure that Rex can give some more of the report, a report more about the meeting when he gives his report. But that was my main concern that I had talked to with the Menlo Park mayor and that we discussed in that meeting. No resolution yet, but we're working on it. And also, I know that Peter, the chief sent you an email, or I think spoke with you, that he and I met with the mayor of Atherton and their town manager at their request, just kind of put together the agenda for the joint meeting on April 29th. So that, I think, is moving along. The chief actually had some great suggestions in terms of grouping the agenda items into, I guess I could call it like themes, probably more than anything. So, and I know that the chief may have talked to you about that as well. And again, I think that, as the chief said in an email to you, that this is mostly, I think, group educating them and also the residents. And, we're just going to have to keep doing that. So that's what came out of that meeting. Director Ianson, the chief, and I attended the Menlo Park Planning Commission meeting a couple of weeks ago or so. I understand they met again last night and still came up with the same option, the recommended option 2 to the city council. I'm looking forward to hearing about that, if anyone is going to report out about that. We had our strategic plan, that's in another section. I also attended the Menlo Park Chamber of Commerce event at Facebook's West Campus, and it's, looking good, and I think that they're going to actually have a community event as well, so I think that the fire board members will get an invitation to that. I'm a member of the chamber, so I got an invitation, so I'm sure that once they set up the time and date for the community event, that we'll all receive an invitation, so look forward to that. And just a reminder that the May meeting has been moved to May 21st from the original May 19th date, or May 20th date, because Director Solano and Dr. Burns will be in Sacramento for the CSDA legislative day. So just, I know it's in the packet, but I'm just stating for the record again that the meeting for May has been moved to May 21st. That's all I've got for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. Reports and requests from directors. Director Bernstein?
I don't have a report.
Director Faulkner?
I've got a number of Atherton issues. I can do either now or under liaison, however you want to handle it.
However you'd like to.
Well, we've started trying, I think, under the chief's leadership to try to develop better coordination and better relationships with the communities that we serve. And one of the messages we've tried to say is, we're your fire department, and we'd like you to have us involved in planning and things like that. And I've come to recognize that when it comes to Atherton, that's a two-edged sword. Because having said that, then the town manager says, okay, fine, you know, Harold works for me. And the mayor has begun to demonstrate a lot of interest in exercising control and oversight of the fire district. And I've had the opportunity to consult with our council on this issue, and I think the legalities are clear, but the politics are not. We are going into a joint meeting with them the end of next week. And they put out a preliminary agenda, which, as I look at their agenda, it's sort of like, you know, they're doing an evaluation of the fire district, and it's all one-sided. You know, what are you guys doing? How much is it costing us, etc. And it's certainly, and it's on their turf, and so far, you know, it appears as if they want to take not only control of the meeting, but control of the fire district. And I've had a number of exchanges with the mayor on this issue. I'm just not sure how it's going to shake out, but I just want to alert you to the fact that when you walk into that joint meeting, there is the impression on their part that you know, they have some authority, some control, etc. over us, and Mr. Myers has enlightened me on that issue, and he may want to just make a comment at this point about the relationship between the two agencies and their roles.
Steve, are there any items on the agenda that the chief has sent us that you would like to add as the Atherton liaison?
I've already given you my input.
Already has?
Yeah.
All right.
Those are included.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
What I'm seeing so far is they put out a sort of a weekly newsletter, and this is our tentative agenda, and it's all the things they want to talk about. Now, we have not yet put out the joint agenda, and my suspicion is there would be more balance in the joint agenda. And I'm just trying to give you a heads up. And Mr. Myers has had, I've shared with him many of my communications with the mayor, and he's been good enough to try to give me his advice and counsel, and perhaps you'd share that with the board.
Chair, just very briefly, the Menlo Park Fire Protection District is a separate political body run by the board of directors, who are the policymakers, who are elected to that position. The cities that you serve do not have any direct or indirect control of their operations. Revenues are set by state law, allocated pursuant to state law. It's my impression from the questions that Director Carpenter posed to me that these are mostly political issues as opposed to legal issues. The extent to which this needs further elucidation, I'm not sure, but I think it's pretty clear that you know your role, you know your job, you know what jurisdiction you have, and I suspect they do too. It's just more a question of politics, as you said.
Thank you.
Just very short.
Thank you very much.
Short and sweet.
Okay, that's all I have. And that covers my liaison report as well.
Thank you, Director Carpenter. Director Johnson?
I attended some of the same meetings that Director Carpenter and the chief attended. One of them was a little bit different. It was the Creek JPA. How does that affect us? Because the construction that's going to go on 101 and the backup and stuff is going to affect, may or may not affect some of our response routes. As of now, the JPA is having a little trouble getting the regional water board to give them a permit. So it looks like there may be a lawsuit over that. I'll keep you posted. Let's see.
What is the issue? Is it environmental issue?
They've done all the homework and all the groundwork, and they're ready to get a permit, but the regional water board is the one to give them the permit. And they have applied for it, but the regional water board is sitting on it. And they are anxious to get this started so they can get it completed before the bad weather comes. They would like to get it done this summer.
And this is all the construction in East Palo Alto.
It has to do with the JPA Creek and changing the dikes around and moving, they may involve, they've already moved the PG&E towers, so that's done. And it may involve moving some gas lines, which affects us, I mean, some things we want to know about when they start doing that, so. It's kind of where they stand right now. The only other thing is that I did meet with Chief Navarro on Monday the 13th, and we talked about some of the ins and outs of the CERT program, but there's also, I'll put that in the report from the committee, the Emergency Preparedness Committee. We did attend the Bellhaven community meeting, which had to do with the M2. And it's just continuing. They've had 3 or 4 of them in Menlo Park and Bellhaven. We voiced our concerns. The chief voiced his concerns, and we'll see where that goes. It's an ongoing process. So that's it for what I know.
Thank you, Director. I just have 2 things. One, I was also at the Chamber of Commerce for Menlo Park at the Facebook reception. And secondly, I was honored to attend Chief Fione's retirement function here. And thank you for your service, Frank. You'll be missed here. Everybody has a little bit of Frank in them, as myself, and I'm sure everyone else in this room does. So, thank you again. That's all I have for my report. Next is the Emergency Preparedness Committee.
Yep.
Chairman Heinzen.
We did meet. One of the things that was brought out, the main topic was, is that we had, Chief Navarro had put together a strategic plan for emergency preparedness, not only the CERT program, but about emergency preparedness for the whole district. Our meeting got cut a little bit, we ended a little bit soon due to a little bit of a disruption, but that is back on the agenda for next month. And in the meantime, he and I have met and talked about some of the things that are in the strategic plan and how we might implement those. You know, how we go about it.
Director Bernstein, you're a member of that committee. Would you like to add anything?
No, thank you.
Next is the Finance Committee. Virginia, you want to report, or Chuck, or Chuck?
The items that we discussed that are, I think, most relevant are on tonight's agenda, so we'll deal with them in the regular agenda.
Right, thank you. Next is the strategic.
Peter, as a member, may want to add.
No. The whole purpose of the committees is to try to get stuff here, and so if it's on the agenda, then we've done our job.
Peter gave me one of these. I got your cue, Peter. Next is the Strategic Planning Committee. Virginia, since you chair that committee, I know it's on the agenda for tonight, so would you want to yield to that?
Yeah, I don't want to go into detail. I think the agenda item speaks, I think it's 26, the first item on the regular agenda speaks for itself.
Okay. All right.
And we hope that the board will adopt the recommendation of the strategic planning or committee. Rob, you were in that. I don't know if you have anything to add.
I agree with you. Thank you. All right. Next, we have the liaison reports in Menlo Park.
Sure. We met with him on the 6th of April. And just to give you an idea, kind of a rundown of what we talked about. We talked about the changes in the M2 and the timelines. We gave them some of the comments that we had. We talked about the letter that the chief had sent them related to the Gateway project and what are some of the nexus triggers for that. They're interested in our nexus study and standards of coverage, so that was discussed a little bit. they talked about the planning commission meeting that they had on El Camino Real and kind of what their thoughts were. The planning commission had not met yet. They have had 2 meetings since then, and that's going to go back to them. So they are interested and want to have a further discussion, some work done on the emergency preparedness agreement renewal, which I think, Chief, you're already aware of that. May already be in the works. We did propose to them and let them know that we were interested in purchasing Station 77. So that needs to go back to them. I don't know exactly where that's at. We'll wait to hear from them. And the other thing we discussed was we discussed a little bit about their land use planning process. So again, these are all things that have been brought up to them. We'll have to kind of watch the process and see how they come back to us, and if they actually do include the fire department in some of their planning process, which in the past hasn't happened.
Can I ask you a question? Sure. It's not a question, but I wondered if you could expand. There was some urgency, and at the last meeting we discussed this letter being sent to them and so forth. But as I understand, they have now delayed the M2 planning process by 6 months.
Yes.
Could you tell us your understanding of what's happened?
Well, to be quite frank with you, is that they had a meeting with the people in Bellhaven, and the people in Bellhaven basically said is that you have not put out a whole lot of information about this. How are we supposed to make a decision? So part of that process was that they decided that they're going to wait another 6, they're going to delay it by 60 days at least, maybe more, but right now they're talking about 60 days, because they need to do some more input out there.
Rob?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, one of the things that's going on, and as many of you know, I used to be a planning commissioner in Palo Alto, so it's something I know a great deal about, because during my tenure, we wrote the general plan for the city of Palo Alto, which, believe it or not, has a more complex process of citizen involvement than Menlo Park does. The general plan of a city is required by state law to cover all aspects of development within the geographical boundaries of that city. And it must include a number of individual elements. One of the elements is of particular concern to us is called the circulation element, which is the one that addresses roads and access. Another element that's required by law of the general plan is a safety element. Well, turns out that Menlo Park's general plan is almost 20 years old. And what they've been doing with the specific plan and the M2 plan are what are called area plans. And they are not a substitute for a general plan for the city. So in the background, with almost no public comment, they are in fact rewriting their general plan. We have no idea who's doing it. We have no idea what's going into it. We went to a meeting last night on what they want to do with bicycles in El Camino, and it was a group of people who were wandering around in the dark trying to figure out what kind of an animal they were dealing with, because they didn't have a general plan and they don't have a circulation plan for the city. And if you look closely at the M2 project, it has 2 elements, one of which is called Connect Menlo and the other is M2. Where you scrape away the surface, and Connect Menlo is a, I think, potentially illegal way of trying to update their circulation plan. So they're not really saying we're updating the circulation element for the entire city, but that's what they're proposing to do. The problem is that they're not getting any comments from anybody with respect to circulation in other parts of the area. So they're just sort of focusing in on the M2 area and maybe Willow Road. It is a train wreck waiting to happen. And we are going to have to be very nimble as they come up with progress on this general plan update. And in the meantime, they're doing crazy things like, oh, we're going to change Santa Cruz, and last night we're going to do El Camino. And it's just impossible to say whether you should or shouldn't have a bike lane on El Camino if you don't have a bike network established for the city. So, it's frustration and it's craziness. I think thanks to Harold's effort and Virginia and Rex's, we are spending more time talking to them. The problem is, it's not at all clear they know where they're going. And I'm sure Ray Mueller will watch this and call me on the telephone and scream at me, but my job is not to keep the city council happy.
So anyway, it's ongoing, and we try and meet with them and give them our concerns, and hopefully we'll be involved in the process, because if we aren't, I don't even want to consider that if we're not. I'm willing to keep working, trying to get us.
Chuck?
Can I add one thing? I do want to say, Peter, I appreciate the time that you're taking to keep us informed of your thoughts too. So I don't want you to think that they're not being considered when when we go in and meet. I just want you to know that.
Okay, well, you guys keep wearing the white hat, I'll carry the black hat.
Well, no.
Chuck, East Palo
Yeah, just a couple of things. I contacted the new mayor, and I'm trying to set up a meeting of some community volunteers to help push the CERT program along there. I've not heard back from her yet, but I was going to mention we have a couple of opportunities to do it. I'm going to speak later about the Cinco de Mayo celebration, and that is an opportunity for the district to be more involved in the community. And Jack Nelson mentioned that the CERT exercise this Thursday is also taking place in East Palo Alto, and we may there informally have an opportunity to meet up with some of the CERT volunteers who live in East Palo Alto and hopefully try to get them to network and build an organization there. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chuck. In San Mateo County, I attended Laura Martinez's swearing in as the new school board director. And I sat next to Warren Slocum, who I met there, and we talked a little bit. And according to Warren Slocum, everything is fine. And thank you, Chief, for all those emails that I get from Don Horsley and Warren, and you and your staff handled them in a very great manner where they're both very happy.
Good.
So thank you for that.
For now.
For now. No. Till, let's see what, today. Okay. So, that's all I have to say on San Mateo County. Virginia, did you say?
Yeah, so I just wanted to add on to Chuck's thing for East Palo Alto that I also attended Laura Martinez swearing in as the new Sequoia Union High School District trustee, board trustee. And also, I think I mentioned this to you, Bob, but I have a meeting with Warren Slocum on April 2nd, and he says that nobody's one of those concerns right now. This state received an email from Director Carpenter about the weekend neighborhood, but at that point had not really had a chance to look at it. So if he gets back to you on that, Bob, that's probably where this is coming.
Well, speaking of weekend acres, Director Carpenter and I had, since I was the county liaison, had spoken at the veteran shelter groundbreaking, and he had met, not only we had talked with Warren, but had been referred to one of his staffers, right, Peter?
Yeah.
And then you and that staffer have communicated since.
Well, communication means that people talk in both directions. It hasn't been communication. I sent them a message and I
they
said,
haven't gotten back to
please
you.
explain to us how you allocate the property tax dollars, and I have not gotten a response.
Oh, I'm sorry. So it was only one-sided communication. Okay, I stand to be corrected there.
It's monocation rather than communication.
But thank you for the verification. All right, so next we have, does anyone else want to add anything? Any directors? Virginia?
No, I'm fine, thanks, Bob. Tom.
Okay. Now we have the report from the fire chief for discussion and direction.
Normally, I would say, do you have any questions, but just because there was a few points that were brought up, I'll quickly address. The town of Atherton. I think the Director Crawley and I did have a very good meeting with the city manager and the mayor, but I'm sensitive to Director Carpenter's concerns. There's no doubt that even before the current city managers that's been in there was there, that we've heard, and I've heard since I started as the deputy chief here, that Atherton has concerns about the property tax allocation that the district gets versus what it itself gets. I don't think we shy away from that. I think what we do is address that head on, because I think there's a lot of misnomers about how all that works and what they can do. And if this meeting gives us an opportunity to clarify that, then I think we need to do that, because it's going to keep going on and on until I think we address it. And I'm prepared to do that. We're working on a PowerPoint presentation to let them see what it is that we do and how we do it. Hopefully that will suffice to handle that. On the other one here for the city of Menlo Park, I also have a concern there. Director Ianson did go to a meeting. We did go to a meeting down in East Menlo Park. It was, I think, well attended. I think they probably need to have meetings out there more regularly because of what's going on with the M2 and Bellhaven. But the biggest concern that I had coming out of that meeting wasn't what they were proposing or not proposing for development. It was the methodology that they were given that would change how they could seek benefit. And if you look at my report, the very last thing where we asked the city of Menlo Park to now, based upon the Gateway project, release $25,000 to pay for the Nexus, or help pay for the Nexus study. That's based upon impact fees. Now, granted, the jurisdictions all need to adopt those, but the reality is if Menlo Park chooses to change the vehicle, for us, we don't want to have a study that is meaningless. At the same time, I'm not sure what that vehicle is going to be. So I have some concerns about that. What is that going to be going forward? And we really don't know. They could change it. They may not change it. There was discussion about public benefit, including schools in Palo Alto. I don't know what, through a JPA process, I don't know what the vehicle is going to be or what the point is. But there was also discussion about looking at other agencies' property tax allotment and what the reserves were. And so that did cause me a great deal of concern, because I'm not sure if that was directed at us or what it means, but it's certainly something I think we need to watch. Moving forward, the SLAC agreement, I met with them again recently. They're very satisfied. As you know, we've re-upped for up to a total of what can be 5 years, and we're looking forward to working with them. And then, a big one I think for the district that we didn't really reveal last time because it wasn't quite baked out yet, but Facebook's rental agreement. Obviously, this was part of the trepidation for everyone in the M2 is Facebook buying that additional land that was Prologis property before. But us working with Facebook when they became the landlord, our lease was due in March, and Facebook graciously allowed us to move forward without paying rent and capping the property tax. So that's a huge deal. It could be up to 3 years that they're going to allow us to do that. I know that talking with the city of Menlo Park, there was a little bit of concern that the fire district had gotten this benefit, but it's really the rescue team that's received the benefit, because the district, while we have the ECC in that building, it's the USAR team that pays out of their grant dollars. So these grant dollars can be allocated towards other things that the team needs to do. So that's a big benefit, I think, for the rescue team to be able to keep that, because that's a significant portion of the budget every year is to pay for rent. The last couple things in here, you saw the Gatsby 68. Hopefully we'll have that information by June. And then on both the standards of cover and the Nexus impact fee study, Nexus should be done by May. Standards of cover should be done by June at the latest, although we're working with them currently, and they're both working together. I know Director Bernstein asked me a question about the Nexus. Nexus is actually, those two entities are working together so that the report complements each other versus, works at cross purposes. And then the final thing, and I know she's not here tonight, but we wish she was, and maybe you can say something to her when you see her next, and that is As you know, we got the GFOA Certificate of Achievement, which is listed in here. That's a big thing in of itself. But this year, as it mentions, Fariba was single-handedly kind of called out and received a special certificate based upon her work and her dedication to kind of shepherding this through every time. And I know sometimes we don't always pay attention to those things, but it is a big deal. And I want to make sure we acknowledge her at some point because she does a very good job. So with that, that's my report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Chief, I have a question. I know that you and I had attended I don't know if they called it a hearing or a special meeting involving the railroad crossing accident.
Yes.
And a lot of people expressed their concern as to what they were going to do. And I had forwarded you a research Department of Transportation grant for an information item for you, knowing that I had also forwarded it to not only the city manager there, but to the mayor and called Pro Tem Mayor, Rich Klein also. So I'm pretty sure there's enough money there. I think there's like $330 million for infrastructure that involves those types of Department of Transportation items, including railroad crossings. So I hope they bite or have someone write up those grants.
Well, you know, to your point, there is a solution for part of that problem at that rail crossing, which is if traffic backs up, which is what occurred, you know, and the specificity of why the driver that was hit in the vehicle didn't take a different lane or look up or see the train coming. You know, there is a solution to hardwire from the railroad box to the traffic signal to allow it to preempt. It's not the same type of preemption that we use, but to your point, they are looking at that. So, you know, that would require digging a trench and running a cable and the city spending some money, but I know that's one of the things that we suggested because we looked into it first with our preemption system. But as it says in the report too, you know, we're not able to do any preemption on El Camino and Menlo Park until the traffic signals are changed out. So that's coming, we understand, in the next 6 months. And as Director Carpenter mentioned, the meeting that we were at last night, they just received a nice message from the mayor who's out of town regarding, you know, apologizing to not only myself but the group and the way we were somewhat handled last night by one of the commissioners on the planning commission. You know, we're not exactly presenting the most popular information because we believe that El Camino should be used for road traffic. But one of the things that was not in that study that they commissioned at all, which has not been in any study I've seen, both in Atherton as well, is that they consider Mercy apparatus, that they consider that we use Stanford Hospital. When I talked to AMR, the ambulance company, no one's ever contacted them. They have a performance contract. So, you know, we talk a lot about these reports that we see with bicyclists about equity. You know, and I think for us it's about bicycle safety. We're not against bicycles or people bicycling, but, you know, when you look at 34,700 vehicle trips a day versus 100 bicycle trips on the same stretch with other alternatives, you know, and no mention of emergency response, no mention of a hospital, no mention of anything related to public safety, it's kind of hard to swallow that, you know, this report either needs to get shelved for a period of time, as Director Carpenter said, we look at the circulation plan for the city and have a broader look at it. But that's part of what's going on out there. That's going to impact our emergency response, you know, through the corridor.
How many people, excuse me,
Really drive me crazy. I mean, last night, you know, we had the chairman of the planning commission, I think it was the chairman, ask Harold, well, gee, isn't the bike lane gonna be great for you guys because you can go down the bike lane? Now, how are you gonna get a 12-foot fire engine in a 6-foot lane? I mean, it's just craziness.
carefully.
And nothing, and not a single, in this report that they've written, there's not a single cross-section of El Camino which shows the dimensions of the lanes. And in the conversation last night, you suddenly heard the traffic person saying, well, you know, we're gonna make the lanes narrower. Well, that's not in the report. Now, and at what point did the lanes become so narrow that we can't even use them? I was just so disappointed last night in the lack of quality analysis, the lack of coordination with other agencies.
Peter, when you say they, do you mean the consultants, or do you mean the recommendation that the planning commission gave the first time? Who's the they?
Well, let me just answer your question. First, I think the consultant's report was totally co-opted by the bicycle lobby. You know, it was a bicycle report, it wasn't a transportation report.
Okay, so the they is the bicycle commission, is that who you're?
No, not the commission, but the consultant who prepared the report, and they were very much co-opted by the bicycle and transportation committee.
Okay.
The staff has been sucked into being, you know, years ago it was green is good, now it's bikes are good. And the planning commission was incredibly uninformed with respect to what the state law is on general plans and circulation elements and safety elements. Now, the good news is that when they voted a week ago, they voted unanimously to recommend option 2. A number of us worked very hard to change that outcome last night, and we ended up with a split vote, with one person against, one person abstaining, and the others voting for it. It's still insanity, but at least it's not unanimous insanity.
Well, how did it get, I'm just curious, how did this issue get brought back to the planning commission? Again, who wanted that, Carol, do you know?
Well, I know exactly how it came back. It came back because our fire chief went to the first meeting, gave an excellent presentation. Some of them walked out of there, scratched their heads and said, you know, maybe we haven't thought about this very carefully. And so one of the members made a motion to reconsider, and they voted to reconsider, and that's how it got back. It would not have gotten back had Harold not made the presentation at the first meeting.
Right, which was very good, because I was at that meeting.
So that's what opened it up again, but then even faced with more information, Harold alluded to this. Harold spoke, Rex spoke. I then spoke and said, I'm not speaking on behalf of the fire board, but I'm speaking as a private citizen, as a former planning commissioner. And you folks really need to understand what the law is, and the fact that you're trying to deal with the specific before you deal with the general. And the response to that was one of the commissioners engaging in some of the most insulting comments about Harold and Rex and myself in the presentation that we'd made.
Okay, so I got that email from the mayor too.
Which he apologized for at the end of the meeting, so I give him the credit for that.
Thanks.
Yes, Joe.
I just wanted to make a comment, Chief, because I was involved in development issues in Menlo Park a long time ago, and I was involved in a committee dealing with public benefit and so forth. And I just wanted to clarify that people, when they talk about that, are actually talking about two different things, and it's one of the things that complicates the discussion. And I'm not sure that the fire district should be dealing with public benefit as opposed to impact. And I just want to clarify here, because at one level, people talk about the benefits of development in a general sense, and we try to talk about that. But what's happened, for example, with the downtown plan is that developers can get a bonus, either a density bonus or a floor area ratio bonus for showing a public benefit, for trading a public benefit. The council then, they don't have the criteria yet, but they want to have criteria for evaluating the amount of public benefit. Is it worth the trade-off? The things that when we were talking about what the district should have in terms of the Bohannon project, there we were trying to deal, you were trying to deal with it, I was talking as a citizen, but the issues were impact of this development. And the study was supposed to look at what gets worse. So I guess I'm trying to say that in a sense, we don't want to look at ourselves as a nice to have or as a benefit. I think it's important for us to be clear that if traffic is slowed to a standstill, what are we going to do and who's going to pay for it? If we need a special piece of equipment, if we need certain clearance, whatever it is, how are we gonna get that? And so I would just make it clear that we're not talking about trying to get the benefits raining down from development. We're trying to maintain the quality of service.
I would have one caveat to that, and I agree entirely with what you said, making the distinction between benefit and basically impact fees. If, for example, though, someone out in the M2 area said, what we would like to propose as a public benefit is, going back to the old Sun Microsystems days, you know, we would like to build a fire station as a public benefit. You know, I would say, yeah, let's have that conversation. And that's different, though, than the conversation about having an impact fee. I wouldn't, you know, you remember the conversations about Sun. And they said, hey, you know, we built this thing, and for a variety of reasons, we didn't take them up on it.
Well, I think they're all good points. I mean, you know, again, you know, on that conversation that we did have, I presented them with a letter. You know, there's two pieces. One is, to your point, the benefit, which I would agree. I mean, you know, we're talking about critical emergency services, the facilities, the circulation, again, getting down into M2 or the other side of the freeway, which daily is a problem, and on calls is a real issue for us. But, you know, again, this is the first time that we had heard, as you mentioned, you know, we've been in the impact fee mode here. And suddenly, things are potentially starting to change. Because the vehicle, they're looking at a different vehicle. And that, had we not gone to that meeting, I've never heard that anywhere else. So I was surprised, I think, as Director Ryanson was. I spoke twice, not because I wanted to, but because as we started to get even into the property tax issue and how the district collects fees and revenues, it became somewhat jaded and not actually correct. So, you know, it almost, you know, like Atherton in some respects, but I think, you know, going forward, these are gonna be big issues the district is gonna have to deal with, you know, not necessarily just public benefit, but differentiating what you said. So what is it we need to have? Because we're not part of the city, we're not part of the town. So, you know, two different ways of looking at it. One jurisdiction that sees that we have things that maybe they want, and another that sees that they're going to get things that they may not share. And, you know, is that legitimate? That's a little bit different discussion in each one, but it's a moving target right now. So that's my report.
Thank you, Chief. Next, we have the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
A second? Yes.
I'd like to remove two items from it, please, number 11 and number 25.
11 and 25. Okay, so, John, we'll be approving
Everything but 11 and
25.
And can we pull item number 19? Yeah, so staff requests item 19.
So,
Go on the regular agenda or just be taken off the agenda entirely?
Off consent so we can discuss it, make a change.
Oh, okay.
okay, so then we're looking at 11, 19, and 25 will be removed from the consent agenda. So the motion will be for all other items. Do I have a motion?
You do.
Second.
Second, okay.
So roll call vote.
We need,
So Director Ryanson,
Yes.
Director Solano,
Here? Yes. Here.
Director Crawley,
Yes.
Director Carpenter,
yes.
Director Bernstein.
Yes.
Let's go to item number 11, approval of the minutes of the March 17, 2015 and March 30th, 2015 regular meeting. Chuck, you wanted those?
I don't have, well, it's all one item. I'm interested in the second set of minutes, the special board meeting minutes.
March 30th?
That's correct.
Well, so before we go to March
Just a copy.
30th meeting, I
It's
just
just
have a minor change to the March 17th minute.
Is this the latest?
Minor. It's under the president's report. It's so minor. At the very end, when I talked about that I had a meeting with Facebook, it's not like they're quarterly meetings, so can you just participate, and it's not like I attended the meeting. I had a meeting with Facebook, and I just would like the minutes to reflect that. It's not like it's a scheduled quarterly meeting.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
you get that, John?
Yes, I got
The very
that.
last sentence, the last part of the last sentence.
I see the requested change.
So it says, that I met with Steve Casey and attended the quarterly meeting with Facebook, which is, that's not accurate. It's basically, I had a meeting with Facebook.
So you're requesting the word quarterly is removed.
Yeah, but that, not that I even attended a meeting, I had a meeting, it's not that I was even attending this meeting. Just a two-person meeting.
Good enough.
You can divide the questions you want to act on these minutes and then hold a second set of minutes tomorrow.
With that?
Try the question.
Right,
No, I'll divide the question. Would that make it easier?
Sure, that way you can
Yeah.
approve the first set of minutes.
Yeah, so I'll
Yeah, let's-
divide, I'll make a motion, I'll move to divide the question for consent item number 11, to divide it into, a motion to approve this March 17th, 2015 minutes, and, as one motion, and then, have another motion to approve the March 30th special board meeting minutes.
let's first do the approval of the minutes of the March 17th, 2015 meeting with the,
Well, we have to have a motion to my division of the question, so I move to divide the question. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion
So all
second
in
to divide the
favor of
question.
dividing the
Right.
question?
Call the roll.
call the roll.
Director Ianson,
Yes.
Director Solano,
Yes.
Director Crawley,
Yes.
Director Carpenter.
Yes.
Director Bernstein.
Yes.
Okay, now a motion on the minutes of March 17th.
March 17th,
March
Second.
17th.
okay.
So I'll move to approve the minutes March 17th. I don't know if there are any other amendments, but this minor amendment.
No, there isn't. So, as amended, there's a motion for the
Yes.
approval of the minutes of the March
Seconded.
17, 2015, as amended by Director Corrali. Second.
Yes.
Second by, yes.
Director Ianson,
Yes.
Director Solano,
Yes.
Director Crawley,
Yeah.
Director Carpenter.
Yes.
Director Bernstein.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have discussion on, should we call it 11A?
It's the minutes of March 30th.
Motion to approve the minutes for March 30th, for the
Second.
special meeting.
Okay,
And if you want a second, Rob, we'll start the discussion with the second.
okay, we have a second, Director Einstein second.
So now we'll have the discussion.
Yes. Chuck?
Yes, I would like to correct, this involves me on page 2 of the minutes under the section called adjournment. That I left the meeting after it was adjourned. The chair of the committee said the meeting was adjourned, the public stood up, people said it was adjourned, I left, and it may have continued on after I left, but I left the meeting after it was adjourned, and I would like the minutes to reflect that.
So if I might be heard on this issue, I did listen to the tape because there was a question about the minutes. And I watched the YouTube video best I could hear, which wasn't very clear, but I could hear it. So the act of Director Carpenter, or Director Bernstein, excuse me, leaving the dais adjourned the meeting by operation of law. Because the Brown Act allows the board to meet with a teleconference board member, but you have to have a quorum of the board present in the territorial limits of the jurisdiction. Once Director Bernstein left the dais, it made no difference whether anybody made a motion to adjourn or not. It was automatically adjourned by operation of law. So if you want the minutes to reflect that, you can certainly do that. But
I would like to move to amend the minutes. I don't know how to do this with Corrali's motion. but I'd like to do exactly what you said.
And I'll second that.
So, your departure ended the meeting. There wasn't an adjournment.
There was a motion earlier, but there was a motion and a second, but there was no roll call vote on that
That's
motion.
right, there's no roll call vote.
And since there was no roll call vote, there was no action, so the meeting essentially ended the moment that Director Bernstein left the dais, and then you no longer had a quorum.
So his departure ended the meeting. It
By
wasn't a
operation-
decision to
By
adjourn the
operation of
meeting.
law, right. Technically, Michelle probably should have stood up and said, you're hereby, the meeting's hereby adjourned by virtue of having no quorum. She didn't. It's a nuance in the Brown Act that was enacted a few years ago when they allowed teleconferencing.
Okay,
So
was there a motion on the table? So I don't think we're done with discussion because Director Carpenter has a discussion item too, right?
No, I just want to make sure that the minutes reflect the facts. And counsel has advised us of a point of law, which was that because I was not physically within the jurisdiction, and there were only 4 people participating in the meeting,
correct.
that when Director Bernstein elected to leave the meeting, that ended the meeting.
Right, because there's no quorum, right?
Without a motion of adjournment. And so, what counsel is saying is that the minutes should reflect the fact, exactly that fact.
Right.
Okay. So then how would we do an amended, what would the appropriate wording be for an amended motion to the minutes?
So the motion to approve the minutes should be to approve the minutes with an amendment to the minutes that specifies that the Board of Directors meeting was adjourned by operation of law, there being no quorum within the territorial jurisdiction of the district at 8:19 p.m.
Okay.
Well, I disagree. I mean,
You got the statement here, Director Bernstein left the dais at approximately 8:13.
that's right.
Right.
Okay, and you're adding on to that.
Yes, correct.
I'm defending my reputation here. If you listen to the tape, first of all, I left at 8:18.
I couldn't tell from the tape what time it was.
But again, I think that in this case, the chair had said the meeting is adjourned and banged his gavel on the table. I took that to mean that it was adjourned and I left. So it's not like I elected to leave, I elected after the chairman had adjourned it.
Well, I think that there's a point of honesty here. You know, if you listen to the tape, Director Bernstein states at that point, we have to have a roll call vote. That's what you said.
No, I said you can't do that.
No? Yeah, other people have listened to it. You called for a roll call vote and then you immediately left the room.
That's incorrect.
Well, the facts are the facts.
Well, remember that you have action minutes. The actions that took place where there was a motion and a second to adjourn, but there's no roll call. Director Bernstein left the dais. By leaving the dais, the meeting was automatically adjourned.
The motion to adjourn was actually after I had left.
No, there was a second one after you left. That one was irrelevant. It was the first one,
There was a roll call, there was a motion to adjourn after you left and a roll call vote on that motion.
and that was irrelevant.
You know, absent counsel's guidance at that time, we still felt we had a meeting to adjourn.
Right. And basically what is being, the motion for the amended motion would be exactly what counsel had said, which is that the meeting was adjourned at whatever time Director Bernstein left by operation of law, because of the lack of a quorum.
Right.
So basically, Director Bernstein's action automatically adjourned the meeting. It didn't even matter if there was a vote or not.
Well, to make the minutes particularly clear, you could say that there was a motion and a second to adjourn, and there was no roll call vote, therefore there was no action. At that point in time, Director Bernstein left the dais, and then the Board of Directors meeting was automatically adjourned by operation of law, there being no quorum within the territorial jurisdiction of the district. If that's acceptable,
I would be happy with that language.
then that should be the motion. Because that is
Okay,
exactly what happened based on the
I'll
tape.
second
You can't.
that. Oh,
You were not present at the meeting, you can't vote on the minutes.
So moved.
No, you're right, Peter. Yeah, sorry about, yeah. I wasn't at the meeting for that.
Can,
I need
John, can you
somebody.
I will write it for him. I will write it for him.
Thank you. Are you gonna be playing the
So
YouTube
moved.
video too?
Stop, Peter.
I will second Rex's motion.
There's a motion on the floor.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there's a motion on the floor, which I think has been amended by this conversation, and been seconded.
Okay, Director Ryanson,
Yes.
Director Solano,
yes?
Director Corrali,
Abstain.
Director Carpenter,
Yes.
and Director Bernstein.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks.
All right, so now, do you want to do 19 last and 15 or?
However you want to do it. I mean, at this point, it's a very, what we propose is very quick.
All right, let's do 19. Consider for approval a resolution awarding a bid to Putnam Chevrolet for the purchase of one used 2014 Chevrolet Express 15 passenger van not to exceed $28,327, and a resolution awarding a bid to Putnam Chevrolet for the purchase of two 2015 Chevrolet Malibu LS sedans not to exceed $42,982, and amend operating expenditure budget.
And there's a second one for the van, which is on a resolution which we want to pull. So Director Bernstein actually brought this to our attention, raised a very good question about licensing in the larger van. Chief Long has looked into this. At this point, we're still researching it, but we believe there's validity to what Director Bernstein raised as a concern, so we want to pull the van off of this. Again, it's a separate resolution, and allow the other resolution, which has the two cars, to go forward.
So you want to split it?
Yeah, we're gonna pull off the van and keep the cars. I'd like to thank Director Bernstein for
You
that
want to
too.
divide the question?
No.
No, it's two separate resolutions. If you just pull the van, the rest can continue to go forward.
All right, John, you want to read it?
So we are looking for somebody to make a motion to approve a resolution awarding a bid to Putnam Chevrolet for the purchase of two 2015 Chevrolet Malibu LS sedans not to exceed $42,982, and amend the operating expenditure budget.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay.
Director Ryanson.
What, can
Yes.
Yes, a discussion, go ahead.
Let me just be clear, what we're talking about in the staff recommendation, we're doing number 1 and number 2, but not number 3.
That's correct.
Okay, I do have a comment about that, and that is that, because I'm involved in schools and childcare, I'm sort of aware of these bus things, and it's something that there's a whole licensing requirement, a higher level of licensure is required, and then monthly inspections by the highway patrol. It's very, very expensive. I want to be clear, though, I'm not against the acquisition of anything here. I just didn't want to increase
No,
our
it was a
costs.
very good point, which we looked at, and the van kind of got supersized. And, you know, maybe the die was too big, because as we found out, and we're still looking into it, is that, to your point, you know, are we better off with two smaller vehicles where we don't have licensing issues? Because we're gonna truly do what the report says, which is allow us to use it for the fire district's purposes as well as USAR. USAR, it's a lot easier. We have Class A drivers because we have the trucks. For the fire district, depending upon who's on what shift and what day of the week it is, it may not work as easily. So, you know, we're reevaluating, you know, what the purpose of the van is and how we could accommodate both, essentially.
I was going to suggest a good source of information, and that is Henschhold Motor on San Antonio Road is very knowledgeable about the inspection requirements and also the licensure requirements.
Who actually sold us the last van that we're getting rid of, so. Henschel is very knowledgeable, so.
Thank you for bringing it up.
Thanks, Chuck, for keeping the chief out of jail, and Don, I'm sure Don
The
appreciates it.
chief wasn't driving it now.
I want the chief to be driving. Well, maybe Don will be driving, or someone keeping some
Retired.
firefighters out of some
Drones and
citation. Okay, so let's go to
Are we
number
ready?
20.
Motion on the floor.
What?
You didn't finish the vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Director Ryanson,
Yes.
Director Solano,
Yes.
Director Corrali, Director Corrali,
Yes.
Director Carpenter,
Yes.
and Director Bernstein.
Yes.
Okay, so now we're to 25. Consider adoption of a resolution authorizing the fire chief to award a single source contract in an amount not to exceed $15,000 to Muni Services LLC for calculation of the property tax revenue derived from new development projects.
I will vote for this, I'm not opposed to it, but could you just tell us really what the purpose is and what you hope to use this information for?
Sure. I think, you know, if you recall, and this is again, no disrespect to Councilmember Otaki, but when he came in here not too long ago and gave the board and staff a handout that said, here are the public benefits, to your earlier point, or what the district will receive in revenue based upon projects within the district that have also gone through the city of Menlo Park. You know, we're not sure that information, and I know he believes it's correct, is actually correct. And we're not sure it's correct because I think Director Carpenter has raised this, and there's been other staff reports related to how the county takes in taxes and how they distribute those funds to the district. We've already had this analyzed by Muni once before. They found anomalies. They found anomalies on the ERAF. They found anomalies in other ways that the county collects taxes for the district. And we never really got a good answer from the county on how that all works. You know, you have some information that's been given to the board. So what we're trying to do here is fact check the projects that have come through the pipeline and go back and have Muni look at those projects, larger projects, and tell us whether or not we've actually received the revenues that were projected or told to the district through agencies like BAE, Bay Area Economics, and others. Because as you recall as well, when Genentech asked for a reassessment, and essentially the county granted them a reassessment only because of litigation, they didn't show up at the hearing, so they won basically by no one coming from the county to oppose what Genentech was proposing. The district received a huge liability that we were expected to return to the county in terms of lost revenue. And I know that was a real surprise for us. We're still not certain, again, of how that all worked and how the numbers work out, but clearly, you know, no one really understood at the time that as we are getting property taxes, that those are being shared throughout the county. There's a portion being shared. So, you know, we had the largest obligation of any of the special districts to pay essentially back South San Francisco and Genentech for the cost of revenues that we receive from Genentech. Now, the other side of that is we have Facebook. So we're being told, you know, it's a great thing, you're gonna get all this money, you should be happy. Here's what you're gonna get, you know, like other projects. Again, this is really about fact checking, are those numbers really correct? Because we're being told, again, by agencies like BAE, by council members, these are the numbers, the district should just be satisfied with that. I'm not convinced that's true at all. I believe they believe that's true. I don't know that to be true, because we've never gone back and said, wait a second, what are the numbers here? So Kathy's looked at this as well as Fariba. You know, as we started to go back and do some of the analytics, we said, you know what, let's go back and have someone look into that and tell us, is that true or not true?
I'd like to move that this item be accepted.
Seconded.
Director Ryanson,
Yes.
Director Solano,
Yes.
Director Corrali,
Yeah.
Director Carpenter,
Yes.
Director Bernstein.
Yes.
I do have one question on the consent calendar, on item number 20, when you talk about the two USAR vans, the two USAR snowmobile trailers,
Surplus vehicles.
surplus vehicles,
Yes.
can we use those someplace else?
They've looked at it, this is a recommendation from USAR.
Okay, how about, could they be used for the CERT project?
CERT could ask for them once you agree to dispose of them.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So don't give them away next week.
Well, I don't think we're gonna move that.
Hold on to
fast.
them for a while.
We seem to get things and never get rid of things, so, you know.
Hang on to it till the end of the month.
All right.
All right. on the regular agenda?
And through the chair, we've had guests here who've been sitting here for a long time. I would ask if the board would modify the agenda to hear item number 28 first, and then number 27 next, so we can get our guests who've come tonight to hear what not only your decisions will be, but also perhaps speak to you, as the one gentleman has already, regarding the fair in East Palo Alto. So I know he's been sitting here for a long time, and I want to try and get him home in a reasonable hours.
I'll move to change the order.
And I'll second it.
So, yeah,
Before we vote on that, I'd just like to, as a discussion item, I would like to suggest that in the future, that if the chief or the presiding officer recognize that there are people here to speak, that we deal with the agenda reordering early. Because we could have done this at the very beginning of the meeting and not held you up this long, and I apologize for not being more sensitive to that. So, having said that,
I'll second that.
Director Ryanson?
Yes.
Director Solano?
Yes.
Director Ferrali?
Yes.
Director Carpenter?
yes.
Director Bernstein?
Yes.
Okay, so, actually 27 is first for the Willow Housing Development Project.
actually, it's the Cinco de Mayo, right?
All right, well, we'll do Cinco de Mayo then first. Consider for adoption a resolution approving an event permit fee waiver request from the Come Latino Cinco de Mayo Latino Festival in accordance with the board's fee waiver policy.
And you have the fire marshals here, you can speak to it if you want some quick information outside of the report.
And just to be clear, this is item 28 on the regular agenda.
That's correct.
Correct.
Right.
Sorry.
And the amount of money would have been $1,084 had we billed it in the normal fashion.
Correct. Right.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the recommendation.
Second.
I'm sorry, what was the motion?
To accept the staff
Oh,
recommendation.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
the staff recommendation is to be,
The staff has
neutral. I'd like to waive the fee.
There you
Okay.
go. And we have a second.
That's your motion, Director Bernstein, that's your motion, to waive the fee.
Right.
That's correct.
And we have a second.
Great. So we can discuss it now.
Right. Would you like to start for you?
Oh, no, I think Chuck wanted to say something. I just wanted to make sure that the staff recommendation was neutral, so.
You're right.
There was no recommendation essentially.
Okay. All right. Chuck, would you like to?
Yeah, I guess I would hope that we could not just approve this, but I think one of the problems that the fire district has is reaching out to the community on the east side of the freeway, East Palo Alto and East Menlo Park. And I'd love to see us get 2 tables at this, one that firefighters could use for whatever purpose that they want. It could be for recruiting, it could be for giving away smoke detectors or CO2, carbon monoxide detectors. And I'd like to see a second one that CERT could use to perhaps recruit volunteers for the CERT program over there. So rather than just a fee waiver, I'd really like to see us effectively be a minor sponsor of this in a way. If we were, I think then the staff would be authorized to go ahead and approve this without bringing it to the board even. And I just would urge the staff to look for these opportunities. This seems like a legitimate nonprofit. I know there was some concern about fees being charged, but it's not for the it's not for the people coming. They're admitted free. The only fees being charged are for the booths, as I understand. Is that correct?
Yes.
So it's not a fee, it's not where somebody's making money from.
It's not a
from this.
for-profit operation.
Yeah, and I think it's a legitimate thing. It has the support of one of the council members and a former council member, Laura Martinez, and it just has all the earmarks. And so rather than just approving it because we're nice people, I'd like to approve it because it could help the district. And is it possible that we could get 2 tables?
Yes, it's possible, and the police department has a section as well. And so it'll be nice to have a police department for East Palo Alto and the Menlo Park Fire Department there.
Great.
Thank you.
And also, I wanted to clarify, because when we requested, on the form, we asked Sunday, May the 3rd, but on the paper I received from you guys, I guess online, you guys, it must have been a typo, you guys put Saturday, May 3rd.
John?
What page you say that?
It's a page I got from a lot of my things, it's a little dirty now, but.
You can go ahead.
It's the staff report.
There it is,
Okay. Yeah, I just don't want you guys showing up on Saturday.
Question? Unless the
I
staff has
see,
something.
I see our fire marshal writing it down, so.
Yeah, I got
Things are good.
Yeah, I got to
Things
work
are
with him
good.
afterwards.
Okay, and who should I give a phone call after I talk to this about with
Chief?
the
I
council?
would say work with the fire marshal and he can feed all the
Okay.
information.
Take care of the permit
Is
process.
his phone number on this page maybe?
I'm the one who called you to invite
Oh,
you.
okay, so I have your phone number on my voicemail.
Yeah, as soon as we're done with this meeting, we're gonna go outside and get
Okay,
information exchanged.
okay.
Can we vote on this, John?
Yes, we can vote on it now.
Now you
Can we vote on it? Okay.
So the motion is to approve the waiver of the fees. Director Ryanson,
Yes.
Director Solano,
Yes.
Director Corrali,
Yes?
Director Carpenter,
C.
and Director Bernstein.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience.
Okay, item 27, consider, discuss, and approve a resolution authorizing the acceptance of $25,000 from core affordable housing and the waiver of additional service fees from the Willow Housing Development.
And you have two representatives here tonight who are going to be able to address that. And Director Bernstein had asked the question earlier that was sent to the board this evening that Tim Kremen, our attorney who's been working with them, had commented on it. So there is a comment within there that the question Director Bernstein asked regarding this project. But they're going to lay it out for you right now.
Okay.
Good evening, directors. My name is Chris Neal. I'm with Core Affordable Housing. With me is Darcy Palmer. She's the project manager for the project with Core Affordable Housing. My goal tonight is to be succinct in respect of the time. However, both Darcy and I are here to answer any questions you may have. If there are questions that take get as much time as you need as you have questions. Core Affordable, we're an affordable housing developer. We're a fee developer and we're located in San Jose. And we've developed throughout Santa Clara County and San Mateo County over 2,000 permanent tax credit affordable housing homes. We are the developer for the project on Willow Road, which is permanent housing for veterans. This project was initiated by our RFP out of Washington, D.C. To utilize underutilized land from their point of view throughout their campuses throughout the United States to create permanent housing opportunities for veterans. The uniqueness about this project is we were awarded the project 3 years ago, right about the same time redevelopment was eliminated. And tax credit affordable housing are unique projects that require a great deal of subsidy. And historically, they benefited from the subsidy that was from redevelopment agencies. 20% of those proceeds, which is tax increment, would go to affordable housing, and that funding source went away. So once we got over the great news of being awarded this great project that we're very proud to be a part of, we had the hard job of going to figure out, okay, how are we gonna put together the financing in this new world that nobody really knows where sources are gonna come together. So it is a very unique and innovative project. The financing it's a combination of public and private resources. There's federal money through the VA has contributed funds. There are federal tax credits that provide some of the subsidy, if you will. There are proceeds from the city of Menlo Park. There's proceeds from the county from several different revenue sources or sources that they have. And there are vouchers from the Housing Authority. 35 of the 60 units will have project-based vouchers that will provide subsidy to allow veterans to live at this community. As we put together the project, we reach out to all the public agencies, evaluate what fees are required. We went through the process. We have been working diligently with the fire district on plan check and inspection. And I think to date, we've probably incurred about $7,500 in fees. I think the value we've received is greatly exceeds the dollar spent. We endeavor to be a good citizen. We try to look ahead for the sources that are available. And fortunately, the project came together. We broke ground. When did we break ground? December 1, and the goal is to have permanent residents moving in starting in December of 2015. Through the process, we had conversations with the chief and dialogues, and I've heard a little bit about challenges that a lot of public agencies are facing. And sort of the conclusion of all the discussion, I'm happy to go into in further detail if required, is we are the holder of other public agencies' resources. Within our overall budget, we believe the project has the resources to contribute $25,000 to the fire district. And so I am here tonight to ask is for the board to support the recommendation of staff to accept the report as presented, as well as to approve the resolution authorizing acceptance of the $25,000 from the project and the waiver of additional service fees for the permanent housing project on Willow Road. And with that, I'll conclude my comments, but we're available for any questions you may have.
I have two questions. I'll ask one at a time, or however you want to do that.
First, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second, Peter?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and now discussion. Go ahead, Jim.
The question will sound a little cynical, but I guess I'm not clear. Given that you don't have to pay us anything, why are you coming here offering to pay $25,000? I mean, I guess I don't understand.
Very good question. As one goes forward with a development project, we work with a variety of constituencies that provide services to the project both permanently, so currently and in the future. And we acknowledge, and again, part of the discussion was that we heard today, was there's an element of affordable housing which we think is a critical component for the viability of the project, but it has maybe unintended consequences from our point of view. We're housing folk. And so, as a result of being on federal land, its tax implications are different than if it was on public land. Also, as an affordable housing project, it's eligible for an exemption from property taxes. We have to apply and receive that on an annual basis. But so we acknowledge that as a function of what is a critical component to create a viable affordable housing community, there are unintended consequences of those agencies that provide a valuable service that rely on the ongoing revenues that come from property taxes. So in acknowledgement of that issue, and as a result of ongoing dialogue with the chief and the staff, we felt as an acknowledgement of the value and the importance of the ongoing relationship between the project, the property managers, and the ongoing services, that it was a unfair and reasonable contribution from the project to the fire district for the ongoing services that it's going to receive, as it's income restricted for 55 plus years. In many cases, they get extended. So the project, our goal is to be a critical component of the community. The fire district is a critical resource, and so it's an acknowledgement of the benefit and the future relationship between the property, the residents of the property, and the benefits that the fire district provide.
Can I raise one more issue on that? So how this even popped up on the radar is, whether you realize it or not, the VA is a 1.1 call per day facility. What we didn't realize years ago that's occurred there is the VA started to sublet out space. Ironically, they did it with the county. So, from the perspective of, they started to use services, and these are people that were not veterans, that were in a methadone clinic and other facilities over there that we weren't aware that was even going on. I raised this issue with the director some years ago because it seemed to be at an abusive level where we're going to a clinic with nurses and doctors, and yet we're responding there almost daily for calls. This is different, but once we started to look at VA and started to understand that all the activities that went on there were no longer totally involving veterans, they started to morph into something else. This project, I think is a great project, but it's that unique kind of, as they mentioned, they've come to the district and the city for plan review because they can't go to VA because it's not a VA project. So even though they'll have veterans, they'll also have other people in need and can't guarantee that it will always be veterans because they want to keep the facility occupied. So it's unique, it's different, but it falls within the pattern of the VA no longer doing activities completely just for veterans. So that's how it came on the radar.
Did you have another question?
I do, but go ahead.
No.
Okay. So let me, I assume this is rental housing.
Correct.
And is there any way, and I don't know what happens with our agreement, is there any way that this could come out of the affordable arena? I assume that in 55 years it does, and then be privately sold or become sold as just single-family lots or, condos or something like that, and we would be precluded from taxing it in the future?
I'm going to try to answer the question. I'm going to ask Darcy to clarify. So it's, it's a long-term ground lease with the VA. How many years is the ground lease with the VA?
75.
So there's a 75-year ground lease with the VA where we have obligations to provide them the housing. So I think that is one of the tools in place that would prevent what you suggested is happening. It's on a ground lease. You would need a condominium map to change it, to put it to condo. I'm trying to think of the extreme case. The simple answer is no, it's not going to happen, but I want to show you the proof or what the elements that are in there to defend that would happen. It would have to go through a public process. So after that 75, you'd either need to get an exemption from the VA to convert it, and then in addition to that, you'd have to go through whatever the public process is to put a condominium map on the property to enable it to be sold.
And could we put a provision in our agreement that if it were to take on another use at some point, that waiver is then voided?
So I guess my question, I'm going to pose it as I try to answer your question is, if the community is successful at making the need for subsidized housing not required for veterans, right? So it solved the issue for veterans. If it solved the issue for affordable housing, the project would not get the state tax exemption, so that would go away. So then you would look at the next litmus test, which is it's on federal land. So long as it's on federal land and tied with the VA, it's going to get that exemption. So the mechanism in place for the property tax to be incurred was for somehow that parcel to no longer be on federal land.
So it would be redundant, is what you're saying?
I think so. I think so. Darcy, any comments?
Yeah, Darcy Palmer, I would just add that if the use were to change, if the VA were to divest of the land, or even if they kept it and they said, we're going to build luxury condos and we're going to use that revenue to serve veterans, crazy hypothetical scenario, in that case, the county would assess property taxes. And my understanding is that the fee structure right now is primarily through property taxes. So the only reason, and even if just by signing the lease, the county is assessing us taxes, but as soon as the memorandum of lease is signed, the reason that we anticipate being exempted from the taxes is because of the affordable use, not because of the federal land. It's because of the affordable use. So if in the future, and my understanding is that this waiver of future services fees for the Willow Housing Project is specific to that project. If it were ever redeveloped, you might have new impact fees at that time, or a new fee structure, or property taxes being assessed if it's, if the state welfare tax exemption for affordable housing goes away, the property taxes might flow to you in that scenario as well.
Thank you.
Peter, in the interest of full disclosure, I am a veteran. I've also had extensive conversations with Lisa Freeman, who's the director of the Palo Alto VA system, about this project. I was very concerned at the time that this whole issue was presented to the city of Menlo Park, that this housing was going to be made available to non-veterans. And Lisa Freeman assured me that the only circumstances under which that would occur is if there were no veteran applicants. And I think we can safely look back on the last 10 years of U.S. involvement overseas and know that in our lifetimes the veterans are not going to disappear. And I've not had the opportunity to discuss this with staff or anybody else, but my sense is that I would very much like to politely decline your offer to pay us $25,000. And whatever approval fees we have, that's fine, but they're going to be much less than $25,000. From my perspective, it's a privilege to serve the people who you serve. So I've said my piece.
And that was an option we did discuss. But we did discuss that. But, I think to the credit of the applicants here, they understood the issue. $25,000 is based upon what's available that they can afford to pay. The reality is you can choose to waive the fees as well. I mean, those are fees that we just came up with without any real exact formula here. There is no impact fee in place for the district. So, they were essentially negotiated or discussed. I mean, it was their way of saying we want to contribute. We know that you're not going to get any revenue through property tax because it's a federal facility. At the same time, understand the district at some point will probably respond to the facility perhaps more regularly than we would want to, but you don't know that going forward. So, again, this was I think a fair discussion about what could be done, and that option was laid out, but that's an option, as you heard, they didn't ask you for anything. This is an option they're coming here and saying they're willing to pay and not just ask for a waiver.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to charge them the $25,000 fee, which is the staff recommendation report.
I'd like to withdraw my motion.
Okay, we have a withdraw the motion.
And one of the things I'd like to convey with the concurrence of my colleagues is what I'd like to see you do is to take that $25,000 and use it to try to develop resident capacity, a CERT program of the people who live there. One of the things about many of the calls we get to the VA, I think as we found with SLAC, when we worked closely with SLAC, we were able to dramatically reduce the number of calls because the training was better, etc. That's probably not a possibility with the institutionalized people at the Menlo Park VA, because that's a capacity issue, which is perhaps not. But for the people that you're going to have in your residential program, I would really be excited if you could set up a residential CERT program. You'd have the people there, taking medical CPR training, things like that. That would be my preference. And again, I'm biased, and I obviously have an emotional attachment to this.
You willing to withdraw your second?
I will.
Okay, well then, do I have a motion to waive the $25,000 fee?
So moved.
Second?
Second, probably.
Discussion? Chuck?
I just wanted to ask the chief, do we maintain any kind of specialized equipment at the VA site? Or do we just take it all with us on the truck and just show up?
Yeah, there's no special equipment that we, there used to be a special alarm system for VA, using an old Claxton Bell system, which I think everybody who didn't experience it is glad it's gone. But, and we had a radio for VA at one time because they had to go through the boiler room folks and the maintenance people. But that's all gone. So the only thing that we really maintain with them is they have a security force on site, federal law enforcement, and they guide us into the campus.
do we require them to have like resuscitation equipment or anything like that?
I don't know what they have, but, you know, I know that the clinic where there are a lot, like I say, with doctors and nurses on staff, so, you know, I'm not sure maybe Chief Stevens knows or anybody else knows what the
Well, the
security
law
force
enforcement
has.
officers must have some first aid training and things like that.
Yes, and then they have AEDs
Right.
on
AEDs.
site.
They
And
do.
There is a clinic in operation on the facility.
Which is the county clinic.
Right.
That's
So
being moved.
there are medical
Yeah.
people.
It's been moved?
I think it's going there.
It's gonna be moved.
Yeah.
Well,
But still in the district, by the way, right on the very edge on the.
okay, we have
Quite
a
make it
motion
over
and
the
a
line.
second. Any further discussion? Let's call for a vote. All in
Director
favor?
Ryanson?
Aye.
Director Solano?
Aye.
Director Corrali?
Aye.
Director Carpenter?
Yes.
And Director Bernstein?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you very
That
much
was worth the
for your
wait.
time.
Thank you.
That's not the outcome you expected. I don't-
But we appreciate, and we will invest it in programs to help the ongoing relationship between
And
the
we've got a
property
great
and
team of people here who'd love to work with you. You know, we learned a long time ago in the fire service that prevention's much better than responding when you've got a disaster. And if we could do prevention, and particularly since you're gonna have that community, it's gonna be a tight community, people are gonna be there for longer periods of time, set up a program where you've got certain people in each structure, they know how to work, and then at least if we do respond there, we're gonna have people who immediately know, yeah, it's that person up there, et cetera.
Great, we'll look forward to that. Well, and please look for invitations to the grand opening, which will be a very exciting and actually probably very emotional event in December.
You
Great.
ever
Thank you for your
consider
time.
going to work
Thank
for
you.
the Menlo Park M2?
Pardon me?
You ever consider going to work for Menlo Park M2?
They've dealt with the city of Menlo Park too, so.
All the more reason.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Staying
Thanks,
too
Darcy.
also.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Chief.
You bet. Congratulations.
My home one of these days.
You never know.
Thank
So-
you.
The groundbreaking.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, good to see you. Yes, thank you.
Bye, Darcy.
Bye, Chief.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're on item 26. Consider and discuss the strategic planning team's recommendations on the board's goals and priorities for calendar year 2015. I go to the staff report, item 26. And this is from Virginia, the board president. Would you like to give the briefing, Virginia?
Yeah, and I mean, chime in, Rob, because you're on the committee too. So essentially what the strategic planning committee is recommending is that we, as a board, vote to use the 2014 Les White and Susan George document to have those goals be the chief goals for the year, so you know that there's something to benchmark his year against. You know, this is mainly for us when we have to do this review. At least there's something that's there. And so we had looked at the we looked at the 2014 plan when all the board, the current board members were involved with that input, with giving input. And another 2013 plan or document that was put together when Chief Belzo was here during the time that Chief Shackelhoman was absent. And I know that Director Solano wanted to, use that as one of the documents to be a base. But I think that he rightfully concluded that the 2014 document, which I, brought up before in a previous meeting, the base document, and I think that Director Solano, felt the same way, mainly because the 2013 document was more tactical rather than strategic or, goal-oriented. Rob, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, the December 2013 document was definitely an operational document through the chief and his staff. What our document has here now, which is from goals 1 through, let's see here, 1 through 5. 1 had the participation of all the current board members. 2, Les White had interviewed all of us individually and had talked to us about it. So the Les White document is probably more molded towards our organization and more molded towards the current board members that are present here. So that's how you and I figured it, and that's why we're presenting it from goals 1 through 5. And also, we felt that the emergency preparedness and CERT was a priority, so we actually included disaster planning under organizational accountability, when we could have kind of left it in a general sense, but because disaster planning is important to all of us here, we added that. So, do I have a motion to?
Well, so let me just add to that. So part of the other, besides the improved disaster planning piece, the things were already things that we had discussed in our January meeting. And so the kind of outlier was the disaster planning improvement. And so we just put it under the accountability portion of these goals, just because it's also kind of more tactical, and a lot of this is going to be accountable by the chief and his staff. They're accountable to the board in terms of what they do in terms of disaster preparedness.
Okay, so do I have a motion? So moved.
Second.
Can you please clarify what the motion is?
The motion is to.
Sorry, Ron, go on.
No, go ahead, Virginia.
It is to take the strategic planning committee recommendations and adopt these points for the chief's 2015 goals.
Goals 1 through 5 of the staff report.
Board goals for the chief.
Right.
And which are essentially board goals for the department, because we work through the chief on department activities.
John, could you read it back to us?
Okay.
People are throwing you words, but I just want to make sure that we get it.
All right. So the motion I have is to adopt goals 1 through 5 for the fire district.
And we also want them to parallel with chief's performance evaluation. Right? Right, Virginia?
Yeah, I mean, this is what he's going to be evaluated on.
So my sense, John, is the motion is the board is adopting these 5 goals for calendar year 2015, and will also use these goals in the chief's evaluation.
Correct.
So they're goals for the organization, and they are the ones that we will use to evaluate the chief.
Sounds good.
And I would just comment that I think that there's just so much clarity that's come out of this, and I want to thank the people who've been involved in this distillation, because I can remember when we had 20 pages of things that were our strategic objectives, and
we wanted to distill it down to the 5 points.
well, and you've done a wonderful job of that.
Yes,
So there's a motion on the table. Is there a second? Someone
Again, seconded.
Been seconded, we're still having discussion. Chuck?
I will vote against the motion. I mean, the goals are fine, but I think we've kind of gone the other way. I agree, Rob, with your assessment of the original strategic plan was too operational, too detailed for the board level. But these are kind of too ethereal. They're just up there. There's no measurable outcomes. There's no time on these things. And yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to evaluate the chief on employee relations, but there's nothing where you can say you met that goal or you didn't meet that goal. So I just don't think, there's nothing wrong with the goal, I just don't think it's useful to evaluate the chief on. So I will vote against it.
Yes, Peter.
Let me, as I often do,
Respectfully disagree.
no, try to build on what you said. I think what we've done now is we step back a bit, and we now have these 5 goals. And I think that what we can easily do is take each one of these goals, you know, like one of your favorite ones, I'm sure will be number 2, fiscal management. And I think you can help, what we can do is to say, okay, under fiscal management, you know, here are the 3 or 4 specific tasks. And I would just mention in passing, totally unrelated to my role on this board, I'm working with a new nonprofit that's headed up by probably one of the best executive leadership development and evaluator people I know. And I have suggested to him that one of the places where they could provide a tremendous contribution is creating a better framework for the evaluation of fire chiefs. And so he has agreed to take that on in his first nonprofit project. And so I've got him connected with Harold and a number of other fire chiefs, both at the federal and the state level. And that may come to us at some point as a tool that we can use. But the way that Dr. Barney approaches these things is he starts with these broader goals, and then under each of the goals he has specific tasks. The thing that he does very differently is that it becomes a mechanism for ongoing coaching and evaluation for the chiefs. So it isn't just simply a sort of a snapshot, pass or fail, but is an ongoing, how's that coming, how can we improve the things that aren't working well, etc. So I would urge you to support this with the understanding that I in turn will support the development of specific tasks as we move into the year.
May I respond real quick?
Sure, of course.
I think the framework is excellent. So
Great.
I think dealing with these are the areas that we want to focus on. I guess I don't want to give the impression that we could do a fair evaluation of the chief's performance based on what's stated here. I just don't think that's possible.
Well, and I think we can use this as a launching pad, and we can make it more specific. You know, for example, in the employee relations thing, we've always said that one of our most important goals is to get a new contract. So that's a measurable outcome. We can look at things like retention rate. We can look at other metrics related to employee relations. But the nice thing about these 5 goals is we've got sort of tents so we can put things in. And I will certainly look to you, for example, on fiscal performance. What are some of the metrics that you would suggest we use? And if we pass this motion tonight, you know, one of the things that I would encourage us to do is to then say to the strategic planning, the HR committee, the finance committee, okay, in each of these tents where it's on your turf, what are some specific things you'd like us to put on the table? And we still got a couple of months, you know, I think, in fairness to the chief, to sort of flesh that out. So we don't come up with on December 31st and say, well, this is what you're going to be evaluated with for the year.
I'd like to say something. As the chief knows, I've written a few evaluations of the chief, and I've also used cognitive and affective roles that I feel he should accomplish as chief. And an example would be goal 5, would be board and chief relations and communications. I mean, he does his press releases, he contacts us, he emails us. I put a call into him, he'll call me back. Those are things that I'll put in his evaluation that are specific cognitive skills that he has under communications, organizational structure. I know with USAR, that used to be under a contractor. Now it's actually under the chief, and we've taken USAR and we've put it into the organization to utilize that training and that experience. So that would be an organizational thing that I'd give you a name on. I mean, organizational accountability. I mean, You know, we've hired a deputy chief, we're going through a promotional process for a divisional chief now. We've promoted a battalion chief, soon to promote another battalion chief. We have an outstanding manager of administration here that was just recently hired. So those are things that I'm gonna, that are cognitive, that I'm gonna rate the chief on, under organizational accountability. So I think we need to be broad, because when we need to measure those strengths and weaknesses, we need to be very formative in our evaluation. And the person that we're supposed to evaluate is the chief. That's all I have to say for that. Rex, would you like to say anything?
I always looked at them as the goals that you had down here as being a box, and you filled in the box.
Right. Sure, Chuck.
I'm going to respond to Peter and
Okay.
tell you that you have persuaded me to change my vote, Peter. As long as we look at them, I actually would ask the chief maybe to come back with this framework and tell us what you think you could accomplish by some date, the date whenever we have the evaluation. I was just making the point that as it stands, if you want a monthly communication and I want a weekly communication, we're not on the same page in terms of an evaluation. So I just think it needs a little bit more flesh, but it shouldn't come from me. I'd be happy to have it come from the chief. So.
Well, and I would suggest we use our committees. I would think that we would ask HR to look at employee relations goals and say, in a dialogue with the chief, say, okay, these are the tasks we recommend. Goal number 2, fiscal management. Go to the finance committee. Say, okay, fine. On 3, 4, and 5, I think those probably are ones that we probably want to maybe keep as the board as a whole, because those are things that deal with the entire department. But put ourselves on the schedule. Say, okay, by the June meeting, we want to put specific tasks down under each of these 5 goals that we and the chief have discussed and agreed upon, and which are measurable.
That means you and I are gonna have to call an HR committee meeting.
Of course, yeah, that's fine. That's
No, I
fine.
know.
I look forward to it.
So we're looking at June or July?
No, we should, I would hope that by June 5th, you know, in all fairness to the chief, you know, we can't wait until September or October to tell him how we're gonna measure his performance for the year. So I think that we should say by the June board meeting, we've got a number of opportunities for both committee meetings and board meetings between now and then, in addition to individual dialogue with the chief. It's not unreasonable to say, okay, under each one of these, we're gonna have 3 or 4 goals. And I mean, under each goal, we're gonna have 3 or 4 tasks, and each task is gonna be measurable. Either it's a yes or no, or it's 80% accomplished, or there's gonna be some metric.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I just think that a broader scope of the goals is give the board more leeway in terms of, or not the board, the chief more leeway on the board to know what specific things need to be done, at least this year. Because I think there are good things that are happening, and so you're right, Peter, maybe, you know, calling these committee meetings to kind of look at these, to be more specific in terms of what we want, is a good place to be right now. But I mean, I think just.
So we have a motion?
Yeah, let's go.
Right? No, I just think that it's, you know, these goals are broad, and I think that they're broad enough for us to use. And that's why the strategic plan, committee would like to have this adopted tonight.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Director Ianson?
Yes.
Director Solano?
Yes.
Director Crawley?
Yes?
Director Carpenter?
Yes.
And Director Bernstein?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 29. Update on the district's responses to the San Mateos County Civil Grand Jury Report on the transparency of independent special districts websites. Is that to you, Chief?
It is. So there's 3 points in here, and actually, if you look back at the letter that Myers-Nabe wrote on your behalf, the second page of the report under discussion, one of the items which we're handling in-house, and actually goes to your last item, which are goals for the staff and myself. In the new fiscal year, we've already allocated funds that you'll get once the budget comes forward to redo the website. And we've already identified some vendors that we can use. That'll happen as soon as the new budget year starts. The other 2 items, though, are not as easy because they require you, if you choose, to want to move forward with both accreditation if you choose to do that, or some form of certification. I know that's what they suggested. I know Myers-Nabe did the best they could to kind of respond to the grand jury report. It may be something you choose to do or don't choose to do, but the grand jury is following up and wants to see whether or not it's happening. So again, the first item, the website, it talks about how we're doing in-house management. We always have. Their concern, I think, from the grand jury was there are agencies that were not doing this. We weren't one of them. But on the 2 other items that require some sort of board action, I don't know if you need to do anything tonight. At some point, we're gonna need to respond back to the grand jury. But, you know, those, as far as I'm concerned, are optional. That's whether you choose to do accreditation or certification, that's up to you.
Well, and then 2 is that, you know, civil grand jury is a recommendation.
Correct.
I mean, there's no legal authority relative to it. It's not like it's a criminal grand jury where we're gonna be fined if we don't do it. But they're good recommendations, that we should consider, so.
A question on
Yeah,
the website thing.
Yes.
There have been lots of discussions about different communities using different or somewhat standardized websites. Have we looked at those and,
Yes.
and feel that they don't meet our needs, or?
So we've looked at, as you see, Menlo Park, Atherton have redone their websites. You know, the whole concept behind what we would do with the website is different, I think, than we originally started, for a couple different reasons. One is social media has grown. We actually are prepared to launch a Facebook page, which is more of the fun and interesting things that the district would have. It's easier to keep it up, it's more interactive, whereas we're not really looking to do that with the website. The website really will become more of an informational tool. It'll have agendas, it'll have minutes, it'll have issues related to fire prevention where you can read different things as applies to applying for permits and so forth. So it'll have more of a dedicated business purpose versus what we tried to do, which is you go on our website, you'll see a lot of boxes, either under construction or things that really never developed, because it requires someone to be in there all the time. So the tone and the changes will occur on the new website to make it, again, more business friendly and more of an informational tool.
I find it very powerful, as with any website, sometimes it's sort of hard for me to find something. And I'm sure that's one of the things that you'll work on as you redesign it.
Absolutely.
The other thing is that as a public agency, I would just urge us, you know, when we have information, that we make that information available to the public. And I'll give you an example. We all file Form 700s every year. It's damn near impossible for a member of the public to get that information. They gotta come knock on the door and go say, I wanna see this Form 700. Other agencies have just put them up there. And if we collect that information, why should we not automatically make it available? Because the purpose of collecting the information was so we had an informed public.
Well, and I think if you go back to the original recommendation from the grand jury or their points, you know, we did comply with many of those. Not just out of the gate, but also we re-engineered the website, so to your point, it had more information on it. So, you know, whether it's board information or certifications or how to contact you, you know, there was also things, I know that Jenny, even though she's now no longer with us, but we'll keep moving forward on, which is compensation issues and other things that, you know, we get a lot of PRA requests from newspapers. You know, if we just have it on the website, we just direct them there and nobody really needs to do anything. Other than they can go find it, just disclosed already.
Any further, yes, Joe?
I wanted to just second Peter's notion about being able to find stuff. Menlo Park spent a fortune redesigning their website, and it is horrible.
Made it worse.
You can't find anything. You put a search term in, and you get all sorts of junk you have to go through and so
It
forth.
really is horrible.
And in any case, to me, rather than the designerly part, it's the search function that I think is the most important.
Well, and that's why this actually was, the grand jury recommendation on some of these things was a good, I thought they had some good points, because we followed that list and found out that most of what they were asking for we did, but some things we weren't doing, and some things we can improve upon.
Another question?
Go ahead, sure.
Just a last comment. I like the response that Myers Nave had. I don't think we should be paying some Sacramento agency for certification or what all those different levels.
Accreditation.
Accreditation and all that. And it's one of those things that once you start, then you have to renew it every 2 or 3 years. And it's just, all it is a cash cow for some entrepreneur who started something.
Another lobbyist group
Yeah.
to deal with Sacramento bureaucracy.
Well,
I think
you're in
got-
the Special Districts Association, there are classes, they do a good job, but yeah, do you need to get accredited? I don't know that you need to do that.
Well, I think things like, the thing that Fariba got, et cetera, those are the things.
Right.
And there are other things like that that we can look to, which are not more of these sort of somewhat self-serving things that Chuck describes. And one of the things that I think we should begin to think, my sense is that this organization is really at a pivotal point of being able to move forward much more strongly than we have in the past. We've got you on board, we've got some internal promotions taking place. I'm very excited. And one of the things I hope that we think about as we put together the budget for next year is, are we investing enough in the education and training of the people we've got? Are there more opportunities for them to grow and develop? Because if we make this a learning organization where people are encouraged, I never cease to be amazed when I see what John's accomplished in terms of taking over facilities things. And have we given him the opportunity, for example, to take short courses and things like that, and to build his project management skills? So that's what I would look to, is I look for individual people completing individual development programs, and as a consequence, the organization is better, rather than some sort of baptism by somebody saying, oh yeah, you're certified.
Right. So to this, I want to make a distinction too, because Chief Stevens is over there. We've actually talked about organizational accreditation for the fire service, which is different than this. So there is a difference in that organizational accreditation through the fire service. We've actually been looking at that. The pieces to help that are things like a nexus study, standards of cover, all those different items that, as a fire entity, not necessarily as a board, makes sense for us to do. So, I don't want to have you hear accreditation again in the future and go, well, we're not doing that. It's different through this organization than what we would do through the fire entity itself.
Can you just say a very brief thing? Is it a long process? Do you have to involve all the people?
I'll defer to Chief Stevens, who's been doing some of the research on this.
It is a long process. It's an in-depth process. It starts with a self-evaluation, and that's probably the greatest advantage to the whole accreditation is the self-assessment, because you identify your strengths and your weaknesses, and it gives you as an organization to make an opportunity to take that look in the mirror and then make improvements before you ever apply for the actual accreditation. So I truly think that that's where the value in accreditation is. But to answer your question, it is a long process because it does a detailed look at the organization. And through our initial discussions, there's other things that we have to have in place before we ever enter into that. We need to implement our policies and our new policies and procedures. We need to complete the updates to our standard operating guidelines, get those positions in place that you just spoke of, the internal promotions and et cetera. Once we get those positions filled and we start to complete the implementation of these other programs, then we can start that process. But without all of those things in place, we're not gonna get very far into the process.
I just have a comment, because education, which I'm in, is one of those fields where accreditation is often a big deal and so forth. And I'm a little cynical about it because it's often a very meaningless thing, but what I'm concerned about is I've also found it to be a very political kind of thing. That often the people who are preparing this stuff are kind of socialists, and they'll say, well, you know, is the newest employee involved in decisions on where you hold your funds? And, you know, it's asking all these sort of, you know, it wants to flatten the organization, and everybody's a decision maker. So I would urge you to look at the questions in the self-study, who is involved in it, how much time is it gonna take, how much overtime is it gonna, I mean, because it can be very substantial, I know in education.
It's a huge commitment.
Yeah, and let me also expand on what Chuck said. I mean, a great example of accreditation, having the tail wag the dog, is university accreditation. Because university accreditation is done by accrediting agencies who basically are involved, you know, they have, their objective is basically job preservation for professors. And so if you try to be a new innovative institution doing things differently, they're basically saying, no, you've got to have a student to faculty ratio of X. You have to have a library with so many thousand books. Today, a library of 5,000, you know, and so we need to be very careful when we get in the accreditation business that we don't, one of the slogans I learned a long time ago is, standards are out of date, that's why they're standards. And if you are locked too tightly into standards, there's no innovation. So there has to be a balance between meeting a certain level of performance capability and also being flexible.
And I would agree with you, and I would tell you that this process and having gone actually to a retreat where we spent several days going through this, years ago with Chief Ty, we made the decision we were not ready. I would tell you right now, we're probably, you know, 9 months to a year out with everything that we have going to even begin to contemplate to do this, because it is a big commitment. But to Jim's point, you know, we've been looking at it already and saying, what pieces do we need to put in place? And
is
that's
it driving
a good thing.
But will it drive us to do things we don't think we need to do or should do? That's
I
the
think
thing I worry.
it'll drive us to be a better organization.
That's fine. But if it drives us to say, oh, you know, in order to get certified, you have to have pink fire engines,
Right.
you know, then, no, thank you.
I would agree with both directors' concerns over the validity of an accrediting program. I would. I think, as I stated, I think the true value here is it's going to force us to take a good hard look in the mirror and ask ourselves, where do we hold ourselves in regard to a set of standards? And in areas where we as an organization feel we fall short, it's an opportunity to improve ourselves. We actually, you as a board, actually have the choice to, at any point during the accreditation process, say, okay, we've gotten the best out of this process. No need to go any further. You don't ever have to apply for accreditation. You can use it as a tool to improve the organization or identify areas where improvement needs to be done.
The flag that I would use sort of as a litmus test is when the accreditation process starts telling you as managers how you have to staff. We're not going there.
What it'll do is force us to ask the question.
Okay, that's fine, but as long as it doesn't tell you, okay, this is the staff you have to put on this unit, et cetera, in order to meet our standard.
Well, and that's where standards of cover is actually to give you those suggestions, and then you move from there. And if you recall, even ISO had some of those recommendations.
Yes.
So there's a lot of different things you can do or look at, which remember, we went from a class 3 to a class 2. So when we took on ISO, we made an improvement.
Okay, we're still on 29.
Yes, so our recommendation is to move forward with the website. Obviously the other two items the board does not need to do, and it doesn't sound like there's an interest. And again, as you mentioned, there's no obligation to do that. So we will need to respond back to the inquiry from the grand jury, so.
Do you need a motion to accept the report?
So moved. Second? Second?
Okay. Director Ryanson?
Yes.
Director Solano?
Yes.
Director Corrali?
Yes.
Director Carpenter?
Yes.
And Director Bernstein?
Yes.
Item number 30. Consider adoption of a resolution approving an increase of $4,657,500 to the general fund reserve budget, an increase in transfers to the capital improvement project budget by $3,173,600, an allocation of $1,400,000 to the public employees retirement system per stabilization fund.
Kathy's been waiting for this all night.
All right, I'm telling you, no big time. Okay, so on the first page, you have that chart that talks about what the adopted budget numbers were for property tax, and also what the county estimate was in October of 2014. If you go to the page 3 of 3, it talks more about what we did get that was different. Well, I'm sorry, back up a minute. Go to 2 of 3 on that chart. The adopted budget versus the year-end estimate, and the variance expected at this time is 4.6 million. So what we want to do with that, with those funds, part of it is the ERAF rebate, which is the 3.173. So take all of those funds and put them into the capital improvement project. It's one fund, but Station 4 is the next one on the priority list, depending on what happens with the standards of coverage report. And then the remainder to put towards the PERS rate stabilization reserve.
And I would note on the first page, it says the Finance Committee met, reviewed, and supported the revisions. So our recommendation, if I can speak on the part of Chuck and myself, is that this is, we recommend approval.
So moved. Second? Any other further discussion?
I just want to thank the Finance Committee for thoroughly going through this and working with Kathy on just the various issues. I think
Thank you, Finance Committee.
came up with a lot of great questions and have really looked at things thoroughly, almost under a microscope. So thank y'all for doing that.
It was a pleasure.
I just want to make one comment upon it. I did support it. Sometimes I have trouble that we're so precise about these numbers. We're going to put in this, $456,233 into the PERS stabilization, and then when it comes time when we want to give money to PERS, we'll give them exactly, $33 or something like that. And it just seems like we're making these very precise decisions and taking a lot of staff time to calculate all this.
Well, actually, this wasn't a lot of staff time to calculate, and it was a simple premise of putting the ERAF rebate straight towards the capital improvement projects, because we've done that in the past. And it's not revenue that we're allowed to count on or that we expect to continue getting every year, so we wanted to go ahead and put that so we can get funding for the next station that will be on the priority list. And then, the remainder of what we estimated going to the PERS rate stabilization. So, yeah, I didn't really, spend a lot of time.
Let me just, I just want to finish the point that it should go into our reserve, but I would like to make sure that we spend time with capital budgeting, deciding what each of these capital budget items need, not what's left over in ERAF, and we ought to decide what we want to do about PERS as a conscious decision.
Yeah, we do have a whole schedule as far as the capital improvement projects. In fact, John, there was a report in here saying what the quarterly, where we are quarterly with it.
And
Talks
again,
about
that's
how
all
much
gonna
is
come
spent.
to us
And that's
in
gonna
the annual
change,
budget.
could change.
And what we're doing here is making some mid-year transfers, to use Director Bernstein's analogy, from this pocket to that pocket.
Said that last time.
Okay, but Director Bernstein actually raises a good point, and when you get the standards of cover study, and based upon what we prioritize in terms of facilities and apparatus, because the next report deals with the delay of the purchase of a ladder truck, I think we can hone in a little bit more closely on where we're going and what we need, because that's gonna have some dialogue in there too, where, some of the presumptions we've made in the past, we may choose to change that. We may choose to have more staff on the other side of the freeway, but we can't do that right now because we don't have a building to put people in. So once 2 opens up, it'll give us that opportunity to change configuration, and then even the order of what we're building currently, between stations 4 and 1, or even 77 of the purchase, all those things will be on the table. So, we will be able to, I think, take a new look again and then see which way do we go.
The other point, though, if I can address what Director Bernstein raises, is that there's a difference between precision and accuracy. And putting something out to the dollar or cents is very precise, but it's not necessarily accurate. And we should not confuse ourselves to think that when we can be this precise, that it is actually going to reflect what happens. And I think that's a little bit what you're concerned about. But it is the way we do things. When I was in the federal government, it was simply you just round it up to the nearest billion. I much prefer this. And sometimes it is precise when you know how much you're going to pay for a fire engine, or how much you're going to pay for a contract, or something else. Sometimes you're just sort of saying, okay, we've made those allocations, and therefore this is the balance, and let's put it over here. Or as you say, it's a source of funds issues. This is what we got from ERAF, so we'll take ERAF and put it over there. But we shouldn't confuse ourselves with the fact that we're able to do this out to the penny, that it's necessarily accurate. It's very precise, but it's not necessarily accurate.
Well, I think your point from the Finance Committee meeting was well taken too, because as we talked about, and we'll see on the 29th, I know that Atherton has a concern about their new city center, but when I was talking with the city manager, he had no idea that we need, 3 stations that cover Atherton that need to be rebuilt.
Yeah.
And so just seeing one that's built and having a fire truck doesn't tell the whole picture. So as they look at what we have in the bank or what we get in,
They look at our reserves and they salivate.
yeah, well.
And I said, hey guys, that's
there's
the
a
problem.
purpose.
If you want our kind of reserve, start managing the way we do.
Okay, so we have
You
a,
can't do that.
we have a motion. What? We can't do that. We have a motion and a second. Let's go to vote.
Director Ryanson?
Yes.
Director Solano?
Yes.
Director Corrali?
Yes,
Director Carpenter?
Yes.
And Director Bernstein?
Yes.
Thank you.
Virginia,
yes,
what's the time there?
almost 1 in the morning.
You're the best.
No, here I think take calling in from London at 3 in the morning.
Let's get rid of 31 and move and go home.
Yeah, that's exactly. We're ready. We're almost ready.
I make a motion to accept the recommendation. Item 31
Second.
has been reviewed by the Finance Committee, and we recommended approval.
Okay. We have a we have a motion and a second.
Do we have a second?
Discussion.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You're right. John, will you poll us? Well, discussion. Any further discussion? Okay.
Director Ryanson?
Yes.
Director Solano?
Yes.
Director Corrali?
Yes,
Director Carpenter?
Yes.
Director Bernstein?
Okay, now we're at public comment 3. I think we've lost all our public. Maybe, can you check out their acting division chief, Stevens?
All the moment.
It's all clear.
Still following the head.
It's a sign.
We're still 3 hours. All right,
There's your sign.
all right, so, does anyone make a motion to adjourn?
We have one comment.
Well, yeah.
Future meetings does not include the joint meeting, which is on the 29th and starts at 6 o'clock, and it's at Old Cromwell Park.
29th at 6 o'clock?
29th at 6
that's the
o'clock.
meeting with Atherton, and it'll be in
Yeah,
the.
and I'm not sure why it didn't end up on the agenda, but John, you might want to make sure we send out a reminder. And I don't know when the agenda will be ready, but just sort of a save the date, because
Yeah.
The package should be ready tomorrow night,
Thursday.
and we'll be going out early Thursday.
Oh, great.
A listserv will be sent out to all the board members and the public.
There's a packet for it?
There's
I
supposed to
may
be a packet.
I may be in Chicago, so I'll give you all that
Is there
stuff.
a poll?
Who's the fire chief's PowerPoint presentation?
Very good.
Been working
Okay,
hard on that.
so motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Well,
Director Ryanson.
Yeah.
Director Solano.
here.
Director Crawley.
Yes?
Director Carpenter.
Here.
Director Bernstein.
Gone. Oh, great
Watch
news.
it.
Virginia, thank you.
All right. Well, Don was watching me. I saw him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take
One
care.
last housekeeping item for Rob and John. John, Rob is gonna be signing these resolutions, is that correct?
We can have Rob sign them if you
Sure.
prefer.
Give the boy a
I
chance.
don't care, I mean, I'm not gonna be, I'll be back, I can come in and sign them on Thursday, or,
Well, why don't we have you sign them, because they're already prepped with your name on
There
them.
you go.
Oh,
There
that's a
you
good
go.
decision, Nicole.
okay, I'll quit.
You were in and now you're out.
Oh, my God.
There's no rush.
Okay, I'll be in before the end of the week.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Jim.
thank you, thank
Have
you.
a safe trip back,
Thank
Virginia.
you.
Okay,
And good luck here. Good night.
bye.
All right.
Oh, there you go.
Try to-
Almost there.
So the lunch